Fear not, ranger, barbarian, magician, thief, cavalier, and acrobat.
Who was that?
That was Venger, the force of evil. I am Dungeon Master, your guide in the realm of Dungeons and Dragons.
Hello everybody, just doing a little bit of warming up and testing to make sure that you guys can hear me. I'm just fiddling around with some of these settings. You can hear I've got my 80s cartoon theme in the background just while I set everything up. Just to let me know, guys, let me know in the chat if you can hear me. This is my first time streaming from home. Oh, crackling sound, okay. And testing again, guys. I'm just going to be playing around with this. Apologies for the robot mic. It should... I'm playing around with settings is the issue here. So... there shouldn't be any robo mic coming on. Okay, nice and smooth now. Right, now this is the main test. Is if I start playing music, is it going to screw this around? So how is this sounding? Is this still kind of going robo? Just while I'm playing this in the background. Let me know. I'm just watching the chat there. Can you guys still hear music? How loud is it? Give me some indication. Perfect audio, mate. Wow, much quality. Still good with the music. Great. Okay. Perfect. Perfect. So I'm going to load. Now the only thing I need to figure out is how I turn down. Right, okay, music level perfect. Barely music doing. Like, with the music, the background we want, like, nice and quiet. Oh, thank you, Far, for setting the game. I forgot to do that earlier. Okay, right. I've just got a few more bits to sort out, guys, and then we should be good. Music is a bit too low. We can't have that. We want Jace up nice and loud. There will be high rolls, so we're going to be doing a Q&A today, guys. I'm just doing it from home. We will get... I should definitely try and get some Halfling Camp on. Let me see if I can get that onto on my little second playlist I've got going on. Let's see. We want... where is good old Halfling Camp?
Two peaceful aliens journeyed to
music. In fact, actually, let's just do it this way. There we go. Halfling Camp. This is the one we want. Oh, no, maybe we haven't got it. Oh, where is it? Oh, no. I can't start it all without Halfling Camp. Oh, I can't find it. I have to... let me give me a second. For some reason, it's not in any of my Battle Bards music. From battlebards.com. You guys can check it out. It's got a different name. Right, okay. Right, give me a second. Give me a second. Why can I not get Halfling Camp? Bit of gummy bears here to start you guys off. Why not? It was in an earlier version of this music that I had. And here we go. This is the one I want. You'll have to forgive me why this is a bit. So what I'm doing is I'm testing a setup at home, guys. So just because it's just me today, so we are going to. I'm doing it from home, and I wanted to test this setup. Right, okay, I should have Halfling Camp. Here we go. So we can pop that into... Oh, bit of Bots Master. This is what you want, folks. This is what you want. Ziv Zoolander, what a name. What a name. There we go. And that goes into stream. Right. Alright. I hope you've all enjoyed my 80s tunes. We're going to kick things off with our favourite. Yes. Turn it up a little bit. Here we go. This is how we get high rollers properly started, isn't it, really? Right. And then the other thing I need to do is I need to get this up.
Now yo, you rascals, with your bellies full of pie, and listen to this tale of old where the
Yes. Rough concealment. Attack disguise. He's sneaking past her husband's watchful eyes. Dragon before wizard. Right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to little Sherlock Holmes. Got everyone saying louder, louder, damn you. Okay. There you go. Crank it up. I'm not going to crank it up all the way, but we can crank it up a little bit. Hello! How are you guys all doing today? Welcome to my little home stream Q&A thing that I'm doing. Like I was saying, it is a bit of a test setup, so I'm still getting used to everything at the moment. We'll shut and close that off so you guys don't just look at what I've randomly got in my Gmail docs. So yeah, this is going to be a kind of mixed Q&A slash DMs kind of creation guide thingy. I'm still not quite sure what I'm doing yet. It's been a bit... I had to shave again. Yeah, I had to shave because I was recording... we finished off the Mindy Mark stuff for Kim's Pokemon video. So I had to shave once again, sadly, to become the wonder that is Mindy. Oh, is the mic off sync? Okay, this is something I figured might play up. Nina is not feeling very well, sadly. I will turn the music down now. I'll turn it back down to about 16. So... Alright, let's... Alright. I'm going to be playing around with this because I'm not super sure... So is the mic sounding good, but is it blah 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 if I'm talking? How is the mic seems fine? Okay. Alright, in that case, maybe it's not, and I can just disable that then, what I've just done. Alright, okay. We discussed keeping the beard for comic effect, but we decided against it in the end, just for continuality's sake, more than anything. So, right, hello. Nina is just, yeah, she's not feeling very well today, so that is why it is just me, and we're not doing like an art stream or anything else. The song is now over, if those of you who are not fans of Halfling Camp. Instead, I have the High Roller soundtrack playing. I just thought I'd put my cheesy 80s tunes. I wanted to start with the Dungeons & Dragons cartoon. I thought that was quite adept. Not to worry, we have lovely, always the real thing beverage as well. Ah, delicious. And, yeah. So, really, what this is going to be... oh my god, I can see that some... donations have started coming in already. So yeah, this is just going to be me on my own. It is quite rough. I'm trying to do everything from home, so if there's no cool donation stuff, the overlay is going to be pretty basic and everything else. But it was just a lot easier for me to do this from home today. Also, it kind of gives Steve a day to chill out. Kim and Matt can have a nice day to relax as well, whilst Trot and Katie are in insomnia. The one thing I didn't get to do, because I was spending so long trying to get everything sorted, is I was going to prepare a load of notes about, you know, stuff we should talk about or things that I needed to mention, and I failed to do that. But there are a couple of things. I'm just getting a notepad here. I need to move this as well so I can see chat all the time. Right, okay, so chill one day for me. Right, so a couple of things. First things first, and I'm going to see if I can bring it up on this screen. Wizards D&D. So myself and Kim both were on the Dungeons and Dragons podcast this week. The week just gone, I should say. And it was really awesome. It was really cool to be on there with those guys. So I'm just going to see if I can bring up the... So if you just go to dnd.wizards.com and you go to their podcast link, this is the right one right here. High Rollers on streaming D&D. So if you haven't listened to our podcast yet, it was really cool. We got to speak to Greg Tito and Trevor Kidd from Wizards of the Coast. Really lovely guys. It was really cool to just chat with them. I was super nervous and I ramble a lot in it, but hopefully that's okay. And it was really awesome to do. Please do go and give it a listen if you've already listened, or once you do listen to it, make sure you, if you've got iTunes and everything like that, please do rate the podcast to let them know that you really liked having us as guests, and then from there, and also, you know, tweet at Wizards_DND on Twitter, and just say Mark and Kim were great guests, blah blah blah, love High Rollers, etc. What is wrong with my face, Amaterasu? I have shaved again, sadly. This was the last time I have to do it for a while now, at least. So the beard will come back, but yeah, I'm just currently at about 2 or 3 days stubble now. So yeah, unfortunately, it is a bit fresh-faced once again. The other thing I was going to mention, I can see some people in chat saying that about the music. So yes, we talked a little bit about it. The soundtrack for High Rollers will be going on sale soon. What we're going to do is, once it's properly out, we'll probably release it on the day of a stream. And so at the beginning of the stream, we can say the album is out now, go and buy it. The money will go directly to Steve and the Yogs, so it's going to be split between the two. So if you once we do release it, please do buy, because it will be really great for Steve. He's done an incredible job making all this music for us, and I really want to support him on that. So please do that once it's out. We will let you know. A couple of other things. I don't know how much the album's going to be yet. I don't think that's Terp, Sam, and Steve are sorting that out. I don't know, but we will tell you when it's out. Other things is there is a High Rollers t-shirt in the works. Barry started on working on some rough designs. He's been really busy because we've had loads and loads of stuff happening in Yog Towers at the moment. So he's been really busy, but there is a High Rollers t-shirt. It's not going to be the logo that you see on the overlay and at the beginning of the streams and things like that. It's a reworked design, but it is going to be very basic. It's not going to be consequences. It's going to be like a generic High Rollers, and we're thinking of having kind of like a crest, and there'll be an item for each character and then a D20 to represent me, and that will just basically be the main shirt design. The shirt will probably be the standard for whatever the Yogscast store ones is. I think it's 20 quid, maybe 15 quid, I'm not sure. But it will basically be the same price on there. I've spoken to Mike, it will be on the US store as well. So American folks, you will get to buy that as well. It's not going to just be Barry's face. And yeah, I think it'll be 20 quid, 20 pounds, 15 pounds, I'm not sure. So those are two really cool High Rollers things. The other thing, which I'm hoping I will have ready for next week, is I am hoping to publish something on dmsguild.com. Now, if you don't know, for those of you who are new to D&D, I'm going to bring up the site here. dmsguild.com. So dmsguild.com. So what this is a site where you can people can upload and publish homebrewed content. So this is custom content for D&D. You can see that the three most popular are Matthew Mercer's ones. You've got his Blood Hunter class, the Gunslinger Martial Archetype, and the Order of the Lycan. These are all player made. They're not made by the official guys at D&D, but you can upload it here. and you can sell it. It's kind of like an indie publishing thing. It goes to Wizards and the creator, and I am hoping to publish something on here ASAP. I've got Kit Bus, who does the artwork for Critical Role, is going to do the artwork for me, and I've gotten some balance feedback. I just need to do a little bit of a rewrite. I'm going to change a few things, and hopefully that will be going up next week, so I can talk about it there. No, Jasse, I'm not a new guy. I am the Dungeon Master Mark Humes. I just shaved. Although it's very kind, I guess it's nice to know that if I'm ever a wanted criminal, I can just shave and nobody will recognize me. So there we go. Yes, so also you've got and last thing before I do anything else, if you haven't seen it yet, check out the Acquisitions Incorporated stream from PAX East that just went by. It was really funny. It's the Penny Arcade guys, plus Scott Kurtz, who does a comic called PvP Online, and best-selling author Patrick Rothfuss, whose books are phenomenal, playing with Chris Perkins, who's the DM for Dice Camera Action, and is kind of the head DM, I guess, or he's got a very prestigious title at Wizards of the Coast. Go and check that out as well. So, I'm going to read, we've had 2 donations come in so far. I'm going to read these really quickly, and then we will hopefully crack on. And I'm thinking I'm going to try, and we are going to, no, close that one. That's the one I'm going to close. I want to try, what I should have done is hidden my tab, so let's do, there we go. I should have done that a while ago. Don't judge me for my tabs, not all of them are mine, some of them are Nina's. Whilst I enjoy RuPaul's Drag Race, I don't watch it religiously like she does. That is a very good point. I will try and get the Reddit for High Rollers D&D added to the overlay at some point. Couple of quick questions. A couple of quick donations, I should say. Bam goes TNT. Thanks very much, Bam. First one of tonight, I'm sure. Will Barris be back at some point? I've grown emotionally attached to the little runt, and I need him in my life. I don't want to give too much spoilers away. I know this is a Q&A. I don't want to give too many spoilers. But yes, I will tell you that Barris will come back at some point. He was very much inspired by the PC's actions in Torfield and has begun his own adventure. And some things have happened to him already. But he will return at some point when it is appropriate. Thanks very much for your donation, dude. Mendari, are you going to start having more guests on? If you have Lewis, can you please have him fight several cockatrice? To see him flip out would make my day. Yogscast. I mean, guests is a funny thing. I know a lot of people like having guests, but at the same time, because of the nature of a D&D group, guests are something I want to do now and then. Generally, they're very good when we have people who are away, so that's when they're very handy. There's definitely a plan to have more guests. I have got a lot of people that would like to be guests, which is very nice. It's just about finding times, making sure schedules are free. Some people aren't in Bristol all the time, so if they visit, they kind of take priority. And it's also just about, I knew that Martin was really keen to play, and I knew he was free. He's played before, so that was really easy. Kath was visiting at the time. We had Trot away, so it made sense. So guesting is going to be something which is very sporadic, and where it is fitting, where it makes sense. So that is why. So yeah, guests absolutely would love to. I know Lewis has mentioned that he, if he's free, he'd like to be able to guest on it at some point. So yeah, I can't say that that's not going to happen. It's just a case of when and where and how. So everything else. Serpentia, Mark, I might be able to drop you a few donations if you drop me Mindy's number. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. PM me. Oh, well, I think she would be very angry if I gave that out. I'm amazed at how many people quite like the Mark and Minnie stuff in Kim's Pokemon video. Right, I was going to write some stuff in a notebook, but that's gone out the window now, so we're just going to throw that down there. Thank you very much for the donation, Serpentia. Right, so one thing I did far too much last time was talk and read chat and do Q&As. This time I would actually like to do some actual work. So we are going to start things off with making a D&D campaign 101. So this is a question I get quite a lot, and I know a lot of people are always asking me, how do I get started making a D&D campaign? What should I do? What are your tips, etc.? And I'm not going to be able to cover the whole process of making a D&D campaign in this one stream. It is something I'm looking at making a video series on. I just haven't had time to do it yet, but it is something I'd like to do. So today I wanted to just really go over some basics and just talk about very simple things and how you can get started. I've got a few things I need to sort out a bit more because there's still so much I need to download and everything else. I didn't fully prepare myself for this stream, but never mind. We'll get there eventually. So I'm just going to download a few more things that I wanted to show you guys just in the background while we do that. I'm not using Comic Sans. Don't be ridiculous. Utterly foul, utterly disgusting. So the first things we should probably talk is, what do you need to make a D&D campaign? I'm not going to write this down. Initially, all you really need is a notebook or a Word document, and I would recommend you get hold of some of the books, the official D&D books. So you're going to want one of these, Player's Handbook. You're going to want one of them. You're going to want a Monster Manual, one of these. This is all for 5th edition, if that's what you want to play. If you want to play 5th edition, you'll need the 5th edition rulebooks. And this is probably the most useful one for you guys. The Dungeon Master's Guide, it takes you through all of this step by step. It is a big rulebook. There's a lot of text to read. Can you put a download to this doc on? Sure, it's not going to be a very good doc, though. Jackowit, I'm just saying it's not going to be very good. The DMG has everything you need. It will take you through creating religions, creating a campaign world, and it gives you a lot of good advice. But it is a thick book. You have to sit down and read it if you really want to digest it, which I've never done. I go in, I drop in, read parts that I want, read bits that I don't want, etc. God, I'm just checking. I'm so nervous about the stream crashing. And yeah, alright, sorry, the stream is not mirrored. I forgot to mirror the webcam. So yes, but you will have to use a mirror to read the ones that I just shown you in my mirror world. They are very expensive books, so prioritize. Or if you've got a group with you, try and divvy them up. If you're a DM and you've got a bunch of players, maybe have a player buy the Player's Handbook, and then you all share it. You learn the rules that way. Check out the free basic rules, which are available on Wizards' website. You can download all the rules for D&D, the basic rules for D&D, for free from the Wizards' website. The Player's Handbook's good for character creation. It's good for spell descriptions, but everything else is pretty much covered in there. In the basic guides. The DMG is not necessary to play because it's not like there are stats in there. There are things like traps and magic items, but again, you can get a vague gist for those from the free basic rules that you can get online. You just go onto the wizards.dnd, or I can't remember what it is. Search for Wizards D&D, go on their site, go to Learn to Play or How to Play, digital tabletop products, free basic rules. You can download it there. That will cover all the basics. What the DMG is good for is teaching you stuff, giving you tables you can look at, giving you ideas. That's what it's really good for. The Monster Manual, again, the same one. It's an expensive book, but I would recommend that is necessary because there's so much more variety in there, and it's going to give you ideas. It's going to inspire you. You're going to see a cool monster and go, oh, I want this guy to be a main villain in a dungeon I'm going to put somewhere. And that's really what it's great for. The artwork as well is such it's a lovely book to have. I would say, yep, I think Last Desperado is saying in store, definitely Amazon will probably be your cheapest bet. Whether that's Amazon.com or Amazon.co.uk or wherever you're from. Do check local stores. Sometimes they do price match with Amazon. Very rarely, but they sometimes do it. But also, if you've got the extra $5 or £5 to spare, if you're not buying this, on a budget, do support a local store, because what you might find is that they have a D&D night there, and you can go along and be a player and learn some stuff from other guys. Or it's just nice. It's just nice to support independent stores. So definitely do that. Now, by the way, I should point out, this is, I'm assuming that you want to make a custom D&D campaign here. If you just want to play D&D and you're brand new, go and buy the starter box, 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons starter box. You get that, you get 4 friends, or 5 friends, or however many friends you can, and you play that. That is the best way to learn D&D as a general. If you want to create your own campaign, then we'll talk a little bit about that. If you're happy to play in the Wizards official campaigns, do those. They've got some great ones. Curse of Strahd's the latest one out. It's really good, horror themed, very cool, very well written. Check that out. It does all the heavy work for you. All you then have to do is improv with your players and run the game as per the thing. It just requires a bit more homework and prep. You won't know as much without checking it all out. So, before we go started, I'm going to quickly answer a couple more donation questions, and then I will try and grab some from the chat. Play Halfling Camp donated. What shirt are you wearing? This is a Stunt Lads shirt. You can't really see it because the camera framing, but I'm wearing a Stunt Lads t-shirt representing my boys. Also, I'm trying to create a campaign. Right now, I've made one big continent, put a mountain range along top so I can create more if I need to. Is this a good idea? So, here's first tip, right? Okay, let's put some bullet points in here. Let's just put some general tips. Okay, first general tip is world building. You're going to see my awful typing because I can't actually see. Don't go too big to start with. Alright, so your first tip. If you try and create a massive continent or a massive world, and this is your first time creating something, you are going to create a lot of work for yourself. Instead, start with a region. You know, a part of a continent. You know, you look at a big continent, it's not, you know, just one city or one thing. It is, you know, several locations together. The world that I use in High Rollers, the world of Iraq, is actually a fairly small continent for what it is. It doesn't have that much around it. And one thing that I've not really shown, I'm going to see if it's downloaded. Downloads. So I downloaded, because I had a world map. Let's see if this loads up. Right, okay, cool. So, this, here's some behind the scenes for you. I've not really shown this off before. This is the world map for Lightfall. As you can see, a lot of it is completely empty because I made the mistake of making it too big when I didn't have enough plan to go in it. Alright, thanks Safety Dance, I will make it bigger font, but I will not make it Comic Sans. You cretin! So, let's zoom in. So you can see here, this is the world map of Iraq. We've got it split into a couple of things that you probably haven't heard about in the stream yet because they've never come up. So we have the Dawn Republic, which you can see is the most filled out. There's a reason that the whole thing that's taking place in High Rollers right now is set in the Dawn Republic because it was the one I had the most ideas for. So, let's zoom in a bit. So you can see here that we've got Bresaras. Now this is the kingdom that Juto's character is from and is currently ruled by the Dragonborn, as well as some allies, some other racial allies that you've not heard of yet. It's a desert kingdom. Is very large. This is probably the largest and most powerful empire in Iraq, but they keep to themselves, kind of hedged away behind their mountain range. Yes, Mighty Claw, this is Photoshop, so sorry about that. This is Photoshop. I used a very, very cool cartography tutorial on YouTube to do all of this. This is all using custom brushes that I downloaded from DeviantArt, and you can check, it's all in the tutorial. I think I just searched for fantasy world map tutorial and it was in YouTube. It's like a series of 4 or 5 videos with a girl talking. It's very good. Right, so you've got here, we've got the Dawn Republic, something called the Unbroken Empire, and the Troubled Lands. As you can see, the Troubled Lands and the Unbroken Empire are completely empty because I haven't needed to go into detail yet. I have vague notes for both of them, but so far nothing has cropped up that I need them to. Oh, music's still a bit too loud. I'll turn it down a little bit. I mean, how are you guys hearing me? Is my volume okay for speaking? Is it okay? Is it okay? Right. So, you can see here we've got things all split out. Now, I made this, so when I make a world map, again, as I said, I made the mistake of making it too big. I should have just drawn out the Dawn Republic and focused on this, because this is actually a big enough region on its own to fill up. You can see here that I've started to put various places and locations down. I've used a very this is probably very confusing for you, but it makes sense to me. Each of these little symbols indicates a size of something or a type of location. So Tallfield is a triangle, which means it's a village. So this means that it is a small settlement. The octagon, or no, what is it? What's 5 sides? Fivagon? I don't know. Some stupid name. Pentagon, obviously. 5 sides, idiot. Pentagon, of course. This means that it is a town. They can be different sizes, so some towns like Briarcrest, Greybell, Wickport, Fallcliff, they are all varying in size, but they are towns. Same with Aramount as well. The big circle, Talisval, capital city, and then the squares indicate adventure locations. Now, some of these, such as this one by Tallfield, so you guys can see this one that I'm currently circling, that is actually the Elven Barrow, where everything began. This one over here was going to be an adventuring site. This is actually the glade with the Scenaria, the character who brought Juto back to life. There is a mysterious one up here. There is a mysterious one here. There is a mysterious one here. There is a mysterious one here. I haven't gone into detail with these yet because I haven't had to. And this is the secret with me and my DMing. A lot of people think... Fivagon. Come on, guys. It's a Fivagon. A lot of people think that I've got a rack and it's all mapped out and I know absolutely everything right from the beginning and I've got some huge folder of notes that I keep secreted away. The truth is, I don't. The truth is I have several documents which have maybe 4 or 5 bullet points for each of these locations, and then I have 4 or 5 bullet points for a whole empire. Brasaris is 6 bullet points. The Troubled Lands is 7 bullet points, etc., etc. But I don't need to know that stuff yet. Excuse me. I don't need to know that stuff yet because the PCs haven't gone there, or they haven't asked about it, or they don't need to know about it. So I don't need to develop this yet. Some people might say this is lazy. This is just the only way I can personally manage this. It's too big and too much. So instead, focus on an area. The original adventure, when I was doing it, the original thing when I was doing it, I basically was like, I'm going to focus on this area. So I was going to focus on Tallfield, Briarcrest, Faden, and Aramount, and I was going to focus on this section here. Now, it turns out, and then eventually have the party head up here to Talisval. And that was all I planned. So that's one of my first bits of advice, play Halfling Camp, is don't go too far. In terms of setting out your map, I love the books by Brandon Sanderson. If you've never read them, he does the Mistborn series, he does the Stormlight Archive series, he also does loads of other books that I can't remember the name of off the top of my head. He is a fantastic world builder, and if you go on YouTube, you can find he does various seminars on world building that he taught at university in the States, and he does an excellent one on world maps and some of the geographical things that I must admit I had completely forgotten from my geography lessons when I was in school, and they helped me a lot. Things like, if you have a mountain range, one side of it, they're going to stop cloud cover, so one side of it will be desert-like. Things like rivers don't split, they only join up. You can have things like these tributaries, but generally it's a rule of thumb that once a river starts, it doesn't split up, it can only go because water goes the path of least resistance. So you can see here, like, these two join up, but I couldn't have, like, this river here go and then suddenly split off in 2 directions. It taught me a lot about how I can make maps that make sense. Even if they're not 100% geographically accurate, they will at least make a lot more sense than if you just go nuts. So having a mountain range along a coast does work, but the way to think about mountain ranges is they form on fault lines. So actually, when I drew this map for the Dawn Republic, I drew several continents and then placed all the Teutonic plates around, and that's how I figured out where my mountain ranges would go. So check that out. Check out Brandon Sanderson World Building Seminars. I'm pretty sure they're all on YouTube. You can check them out there. Really, really helpful. That's what I used. Oh, the towers, by the way, these mean either kind of citadels or fortresses or general kind of fortifications, shall we say. So one that we haven't really gone into is one near Talisval that the party technically should have been able to see on their way in. I forgot to describe it to them, but there is a keep, a castle near Talisval that they haven't gone to yet. Is it so? I've just seen a question. I'm going to pull a question from chat. This is from EA Mini, Iamni. Is it possible to have D&D campaign without all the fantasy, like a realistic historical campaign? Absolutely, you can. The D&D rule set might not be the best one for you because it does, it is a fantasy-based campaign, but there are plenty of rule sets out there, things like Savage World, Fate, which allow you to be they're genreless systems. You can run them in anything, sci-fi, historical, realistic history or medieval. You can do whatever you want. I would say the D&D setting can do those things, but it's not suitable for them. So yeah, if you don't want to have elves and dwarves and stuff, yeah, you absolutely can do. You just need to find the right system. The two I'd recommend, Savage Worlds and Fate. Fate's great because it's pay what you want. You can download the basic rules for free. Really simple system, but allows for a lot of creativity. Savage Worlds is also really good. I'm going to have a quick sip because I can feel my throat going already. I'm just going to read some stuff in the chat. Right. I am not very good. Mr. Humes, are we likely to see you playing D&D with Trot DMing anytime soon? Probably not, especially because Trot is obviously really busy. Hat Films have got a lot of stuff to do, so generally during the day he is either recording or editing with those guys, and then after work it's kind of our personal time. We work, even Sundays, we sacrifice our personal weekend to play. I don't mind because this is my weekly D&D game. But yeah, it's kind of tricky when it gets into multiple games. That said, we might be doing some more multiple games, but with me DMing more in the future, and I'll talk a bit more about that later. A couple more questions. So sorry about that, Halfling Camp. That was a bit of a rambling answer for you, but I do recommend, check out Brandon Sanderson's world-building series, and don't go too big. I would honestly not focus on a continent, focus on a region within that continent first, and then expand out as you go. Killer Dragon. I just bought the D&D Player's Handbook from an online bookstore. Do you have any idea where I could buy miniatures in Australia? The book's easy to find, but I don't know where to get anything else. Okay, here's the important thing, okay, for D&D. Miniatures are completely optional. You can run amazing D&D campaigns or any RPG campaign and never have a single miniature touch the board. D&D has always been about the theatre of the mind. Theatre of the mind. It's about imagination. If you can describe a room, you don't need to get all the important details down. You don't need to say, every time you're in a 60-foot by 40-foot room, I'm going to draw it out on a piece of paper. You can just say, okay, you guys are in a room, there's a chandelier above the bar, you can see a balcony on the second floor, there's two guys up there shooting you with crossbows, and there's a bar brawl going on beneath it. Players can go with that. They can work with that. You don't need miniatures for every fight. I like miniatures because I'm a tabletop gamer. I've been a Warhammer nerd for a long time. I love War Machine. I love X-Wing. I love the tactile sensation of moving miniatures around the board. It gives it a tactical feel to the combat, but you don't need it. You just need to train your group not to need it. And that's quite hard. You do need to kind of make sure you're focusing on improv, let them do crazy stuff. Train them to ask you questions so you can answer them, because you're not going to think of anything off the top of your head either. You're not going to think, oh, there might be some booze behind the bar, or there might be, another entrance to the bar. But if they ask you and say, hey, is there another door that I need to be watching? You can go, yes, there is. There's a back entrance. It's behind the staircase, and then they'll run over to it. You can play it around with that. In terms of where to buy them, I'm afraid I can't recommend, especially for Australia. I don't know what you have available. Search online for gaming stores or tabletop stores. If nothing else, I'm sure you will have some Games Workshops out there. Check those. If you need orcs, Games Workshop orcs will do. You're going to have to paint them, but they'll work. They're expensive, but they'll work. As for online, again, I only really know UK stores, I'm afraid. I'm afraid I can't help you on that one. But just search. Maybe if you've got some local gaming stores, ask the guys there. Ask the staff there. Hey, do you guys know where I can buy more miniatures? If you've got a Games Workshop, most of the staff in there are pretty cool. If you say, hey, listen, I don't play, but I use the miniatures for D&D. Do you know of any other independent stores in the area where I might be able to get more different kinds of stuff? Try that. Afraid I can't really help you on that one, Kill Dragon. I have helped you as much as I can. Diehek asks if this will be applicable for 3.5 and Pathfinder as well. Parasite159, this is Bam Goes TNT is donating to ask your questions for you. Suggests Korak is a rust monster as a plot twist. DM Valentine says the music is a bit loud, also wants you to talk about modules. Cheers, Monsieur Marc. Well, the advice I'm going to give here is going to be, I hope, generic. I'm skewing it for D&D 5th edition because that's what I know, but generally this should be fairly open-ended, so it should just be generic advice. Korak is not a rust monster, I'm afraid. I'm going to have to shut that one down. I have plans for Korak. And the music is a bit loud. I have turned it down. Hopefully it's a bit better now. Most people seem to say the music is fine. And talk about modules. So modules, I'm guessing you mean the official modules from Wizards of the Coast. What these are is you can buy these books, which are campaign settings, called adventure modules. There's, I think, 3 out now, or 4 or something like that. There is one called Horde of the Dragon Queen and Rise of Tiamat. They work together. All of these are set in the Forgotten Realms campaign setting, which is the long-running campaign setting of Wizards D&D. It's got lots of famous characters and book series and everything else about them. So you have the Horde of the Dragon Queen and Rise of Tiamat, which basically pits the party against the ancient dragon god Tiamat, a 5-headed evil dragon, and everything that goes with that. You have Out of the Abyss and the Rage of Demons, which I think is called Rage of Demons, but the book is called Out of the Abyss, which is basically demon lords wake up in the Underdark and spread madness, and it's really bad, and it's all set in the Underdark, which is this ginormous underground world beneath the Forgotten Realms. So that's also pretty cool. And then their most recent one is called The Curse of Strahd, which is very horror-themed and pits the party against a immortal, empathyless vampire called Strahd von Zarovich, who is very cool. Much more, not Twilight vampire, think classic Dracula, lonesome, romantic, but utterly sadistic and selfish and horrible. Very cool character. Very cool character. And they're really good. I highly recommend them, especially if you're a new DM. Very useful. They'll teach you a lot just running them. Right, I'm going to answer a couple more donation questions, and then we're going to go back to Les Tips. Titan Reese, hey Mark, I'm hoping to start homebrew with 4 friends. 2 of them are playing the same race and class. Is that bad, or should I let them continue? Right, first of all, always let players be what players want to be. There are some who might say, no, you need to have a healer, you need to have a tank, you need to have a mage, you need to have this. I don't buy into that. Let players be players. If they want to play the same race and class, do it. There are customization options down the road that will allow them to be very different. You can have 2 wizards and they will play very different characters. That's the main thing. As long as their characters are different, it doesn't really matter. If you're worried about balance in the party, that you don't have a healer or you don't have a tank, you can adjust encounters. I mean, you've all seen in High Rollers, we don't have a tank character. Elora is the closest thing we have, and, you know, whilst Bear Form is very powerful, once she gets knocked out of it, she's very vulnerable. You can make it work. And in a way, you shouldn't adjust it too much because it should be up to the party to adjust their tactics. They know they don't have a big tank, so they shouldn't just like kick the door in and start fights. They need to be methodical, they need to be careful, they need to plan, they need to play it smartly. So I'd recommend that. Don't try and force them, let them play what they want to play. Do you use ability treasure cards? If so, did you buy or make them? I don't. I do like the idea of treasure cards, but I think I would make my own. One thing I'd like to do more of, which I know Smith has started doing, it's an idea I've had for a long time, but Smith started doing it in a mini campaign he's running, is rather than just going, yeah, you find a +1 sword and 400 gold and X, Y, and Z, I would hand them, like, show them a handful of cards, they pick one, and that's the treasure they get for that particular chest, or, you know, when searching a room or something like that. Makes it a bit more fun, makes it quite interesting. Excuse me, that's the Coke, once again. I don't know why, talking a lot makes me burp, it's really bad. Yeah, so, basically, yeah, like, it's a really cool idea, but I don't use it currently. Bam Goes TNT, you know what time it is. Time for everyone who can't donate to have this donation. Thank you for being an awesome stream, helping us hopeful DMs. We love High Rollers. Thank you very much, Bam, for supporting all of your friends in chat. Right, let us talk a bit more. So, this is, you've seen here, this is a lovely bit of behind the scenes stuff here. So you can see quite a few places that the party's you've probably not even heard of on the stream yet. We've got a number of villages and towns that we've not seen. You can see the Kingdom of Brasaris. The Unbroken Empire, I actually wrote quite a lot to do with this. There was going to be some really big character hooks for if they wanted to play certain characters that never came up. So far, this has been something of a... This will come in maybe later, but we're going to see how things go. So we'll see how that works out. Right, so let me... So I have a few people saying me that they need this to be bigger. So, right. Instead, start with a region and... build out as the party progresses. Cool. So that's a general tip for you. Right, let's actually start. So, where to start? The main way to start is with a theme. So, for the Lightfall campaign, what I did is I asked myself the question of what, how would a fantasy world recover after a big cataclysm? And a cataclysm is actually something that they talk a lot about in the Dungeon Master's Guide, and I'm going to try and find the right page so I can talk about it, where it talks about things that should happen in campaigns to keep the story moving. And these kind of big, crazy... I'm trying to find it now. World-shaking events, I believe they call them. I'm just trying to find it. I've got all this planar stuff to go through. You'll also find that this is D&D is a lot about flicking through books. Okay, yeah. So campaign events, yeah. So these are events that get put in motion, and there's a great series of tables in the book here for ideas. So if we go through these, it's got, to get started, look at world-shaking events. Rise of a leader or an era, fall of a leader or an era, cataclysmic disaster, assault or invasion, a rebellion, revolution or overthrow, extinction or depletion, new organization, discovery, expansion, invention, prediction, omen, prophecy, myth, and legends. So those are all things to give you an idea of what you want to base your campaign around, and those are really great to work on. The idea of let's start with one of the first two. Rise or fall of a leader. That's a pretty big deal. If you've got a fantasy kingdom and you're going to go, okay, well, for the last 1,000 years, the Griffin King has reigned. It's been passed through family to family, and it's been a fair and just rule. People have prospered. There's been peace. Everything else, and then he's assassinated by a shadowy cult. That is a great starting point for a campaign. The party are going to come in, their world's just been shaken up because suddenly that just and fair king isn't there to keep his politicians in check. He isn't there to keep the nobles in check. They're all vying for power to try and be the next king. That vying for power means that they might be rallying armies. They might be doing that fairly, or they might be conscripting people. They might be conscripting peasants, like player characters' parents, for example, or player characters. Who's this shadowy cult? Why did they do it? Why did they kill this king? Are they just an evil cult? Did they think that they were doing the right thing? So that's a great one to start with, and it's asking yourself those questions. What does this mean? What does this mean? What does this mean? Because then the answers to those questions give you interesting points to expand your campaign world from, and etc. The cataclysmic event is what I based mine on. That was the celestial comet being destroyed. A world-shaking event, something which nobody could ignore because it makes just such a big thing. An assault or invasion is a cool one. The idea of, you've had this normal life and now suddenly a demonic army is invading, and the PCs might be conscripted into a rebellion against them, or they might be, dealing with an attack on their village and they have to survive. There's all these questions that you can base it around. And the DMG is full of stuff like this, which is really great. A discovery, this is a cool one. So those of you who are fans of things like Mass Effect, I'm a big fan of the Mass Effect series. What if we had a campaign setting where the beginning of your campaign, or where the player characters, from their perspective, maybe 20 years before your actual game starts, an ancient race was discovered, a super powerful race who had powers beyond anybody else. You had the humans, you had the elves, you had the dwarves, and then suddenly they find a race of demigods who just walk out of nowhere. Are they good? Are they benign? Are they evil? Are they here to enslave everybody? Do they pass on their technology and then leave? Do they pass on their power and leave? What does that mean? That creates a power vacuum. Suddenly everybody's going to want that power. If they're coming in as tyrants and conquerors, you're going to have people that want to serve them, to survive. You're going to have people that fight against them. The idea of even discovering something like teleportation magic. What if you had a campaign? This is very similar to Mass Effect. So let's say 100 years ago, the Great Wizards discovered ancient stone devices underground that allowed thousands of people to teleport across the world. Okay? Boom. This is sci-fi plot. Sudden invention of faster than light travel, or the sudden discovery of faster than light travel. What does this mean? A couple of things. You're going to have expansion. So suddenly, all those people from that tiny little kingdom are going to try and set new settlements. There's going to be this concept of the new frontier. Think about Wild West America. Suddenly, they've got all this new space that they can go in. That has its own problems. They're going to encounter indigenous races that don't like them, that don't want to give up their land, and the moral quandaries behind that. They're going to suddenly discover that it's not easy. There's going to be chances for corruption. There's going to be chances for crime to come out with. All of this kind of stuff can flow from it. Who were the ones that built this technology? Why has it been abandoned? Why has nobody found it before? All great questions. And I think that's a really big tip for people that want to build their own world. Don't stop asking questions. Why this? Why this? Why this? Why this? What I would say is, well, let's go back to our generic tips here, is once you have a basic world, let the players fill some of it in. Right? There's two ways. Here's one way I recommend doing this. Create a document that you give out to every player at the start of the campaign. Make it a sheet, no more than 1 page, with just bullet points. And you call it player information about the world. You give this and you say, this is what you, as your character, knows about the world. Okay? And that will be what your generic person would know about the world. So, who are the Great Wizards? How does this stuff work? What is it meant, etc., right? How has it affected the races? Are elves suddenly... Maybe elves are the only ones that can use it, right? So we can expand on this. Elves are the... Oh, caps lock. Are the only race that can activate the machines. Alright? So now, we've added to our world, and we've said that elves are the only world. Question... This is what we want. We want to build questions from it. Does that make them... Does that mean that they are accelerated into a position of authority and nobility? Maybe in our world, elves are treated extremely well because they have to be raised, they have to be taught how to operate these teleport gates, and that means that they have a higher standard, they have a higher status in society, right? Or the other way that it could go is suddenly all the other races go, well, crap, we need these elves. We don't want them getting too haughty about it. They enslave them and say, right, you are now working for us, you're enslaved, we'll let you breed because we need more of you, but, you will do what we tell you to do and you're going to operate these gates. And they become tyrants to them. It depends on which way you want to go, but we'll say for now, elevating them to a higher status in society, right? So that is something you would put on this sheet, on your player information sheet. Then, what you'll have, and I guarantee you'll have a player who goes, tell me more about this elven stuff. I want to be an elf noble. And you go, well, you would have been trained from as an elven let's call them, you know, a gate warden. You have been trained from a young age on how to use the stone portals, to use the portals across the world. You gain a few benefits from this, blah, blah, blah. You start with the gate warden. You know, there are a few extra backgrounds I've made, or, you know, you could be a gate warden, you could be a guard. You know, some elves aren't taught how to use the gates, but they are taught how to defend those who do. You know, they have their own honor guard. And that's, again, you might get a question from another player and says, oh, can non-elves, you know, do anything with the gates, or can non-elves do this? And they go, I want to be a human who for some reason can use the gates, and he doesn't know why. Boom. You've just suddenly got something incredible that you can run with as an adventure hook. You can go, okay, and you've got, let's say, Dave, his character, he says, I want to be a human, I'm not a half-elf, I want to be a human who can use the gates. Cool. Just don't say no, say, sure. What does that mean? Did he learn it from somebody, from an elf, maybe an exile or a renegade elf who's taught him? And maybe that's a huge shake-up. Maybe the fact of, you know, suddenly the elves can teach the other races and it now works. Why? Maybe that, and then you can develop on from that character. Well, maybe then you have to start thinking, well, okay, why does it work now? What does it mean? The other things you might get is you might have a player who goes, okay, you know, Stacy is going to play this elven noble woman that she wants to play, this gate warden. She wants to play the kind of quintessential princess character who's very well looked after and goes around and does this good service to people, but is actually secretly very money hungry and, you know, is in it for the power. But then you might have John, who wants to, he's like, oh, well, I kind of, you know, do the elves have bodyguards? You know, who guards them? And you go, well, actually, they have, you know, mercenaries do it. They pay people to guard them for them because they're the only ones that they can trust. Or maybe they have a special order of knights. And he goes, well, I want to be a half-orc and I want to be a member of this knightly unit. I want to be a bodyguard for these gatekeepers. Cool. Now you've got a group of gatekeepers. That you've got an order of knights, maybe they're paladins, who are dedicated to protecting the gatekeepers, and you've got a player who wants to be one. Well, you're going to have to create that order. Who are they? Who's their leader? Where are they based? What do they do? Let the players fill in some of that world for you, because they'll come up with stuff, and it will be good stuff. So, this is all very generic, okay? So I'm giving you a lot of random stuff. I'm just rambling about this stuff, and just kind of talking about making a campaign in general. So yeah, just a couple of basic tips on that. The next thing I would say is don't overplan. So whilst it might seem contrary to some of the things I have been saying, don't worry about the small stuff. Or actually, let's change that. Don't sweat small stuff. Keep it big, all right? You don't need to know exactly every captain of the knightly order of gatekeepers, right? You just need to know who their main leader is, what they do, and why. All right? Those three are the only things you're going to need to start off with. When the party, in the process of their adventures, is like, when John, the half-orc character, he's just like, oh, you know, we should go and ask my order about this. We should go and ask my order about these attacks or why this gatestone has been destroyed. Let's go and speak to them. Then next week, you know, you have to prepare this stuff. So you do. You go in and maybe you come up with a bit more information and you add a bit more to it and everything else. Let it develop over time. Don't feel like you have to have everything written out in excruciating detail from the start. You know, when I showed you guys this map, you know, all of these locations that I've got here, these were 3 or 4 bullet points. You know, that's all it was. Briarcrest, Torfield. Torfield was a bit different because I knew they would go there first of all. I kind of knew that that's where they would go after the Elven Tomb. So it was a bit more detailed. But Greybell, Briarcrest, all of this stuff was just a few bullet points of stuff I knew was going to happen there. Or, you know, organizations that I knew were there. Or people that I knew were there. Or things that made that place different. And that's all it was. And then as they went and they, you know, as the group got to Torfield and, you know, their original intention was that they were going to go to Briarcrest, I wrote a bit more about Briarcrest. Turns out that they didn't because Juto died. But, you know, I had that information ready to go. You know, you've got the benefit of, and this is something I always encourage everybody to do, is, you know, at the end of every adventure, at the end of every session of High Rollers, ask your party, what are you guys going to do now? What are you guys going to do next? You know, if they're in a dungeon, you don't need to worry about it as much, but, you know, if they're in a town and they're planning their next move, ask them, what are you guys planning on doing next? What are you guys going to do next time? Or what's your next step? Because then that allows you to plan a bit more. It allows you to go into a bit more detail, rather than having to rely on the basic notes that you've made. Yeah. You know, I just saw something as well from Combat Bridget Surge. I'm so frustrated that that dude was going to marry Mirella as in Greybow and we're never going to go visit the place. Don't be so sure about that. Here's the thing, right? This map looks like it's going to be fairly progressive. Like, they go up here and then they go to Talis Val. Well, guess what? They're in Talis Val now. They could go anywhere. And maybe I want them to go to Greybell, and maybe I will provide plot hooks that kind of entice them to come to Greybell. And if they don't, they don't. That's fine. That's up to the players. Remember, it's the player's game. I would say in most cases, it's the player's world, not yours. Let them make the decisions. Let them decide where they go. You can make certain decisions more appealing to them. You can say, oh, well, you've heard rumor that the tomb of the Griffin King has a powerful treasure in it, and, you know, no adventurer has managed to find it yet. And maybe some of your group love that sort of thing, and they'll be like, oh, really? Oh, that could be really cool. I wonder what it is. And they want to check it out. You know, you can have, you know, an ally send them a letter and say, I really need your help. Can you please come to blah, blah, blah. Please help me. They don't have to do it. It's up to them. But chances are they will. That's the nice thing with D&D is, at the end of the day, it's very much about illusion of choice, because you can plan stuff that fits in anywhere, but you can also kind of be like, well, it's up to you guys if you want to go here or not. But you know that their characters, you know that if it's a close friend of one of the PCs, they're gonna go to the town that you want them to go to. So never count out anything. You know, I don't know where these guys are going to go next, and neither do you. We've already seen that they are super unpredictable. They can decide at the drop of a hat that they're going to do something that nobody expects. So don't think that they're never going to go to Greybell, or they're never going to go to the Unbroken Empire, or they're never going to travel up here to the Troubled Lands, or they're never going to go to Brasaris, because we just don't know yet. We've still got a lot of levels and a lot of story to go. So, getting dry mouth. It's only been an hour. Blimey. Right. I'm going to get another question from chat, and then I'm going to do some things. I just saw one. I am not very good. Question. Should you try and make campaigns one-shot, or should you stagger it across a long period, which produce a better experience for the party? Well, campaign is generally what I refer to as a long, multiple adventure storyline. So when I talk about campaigns, I'm talking about you create a world, and it will go until, you know, from level 1 until level whenever. You know, you're talking level 1 to like level 10 or level 15. The current Lightfall campaign, the current thing I have planned will take them to about level 12, level 13. I do have some more stuff planned after that, but we'll see. I would say that, yeah, so a campaign I think is you know, a series of interlinked adventures. One-shots, you do not need to go anywhere near this level of planning. For a one-shot, you're probably going to have one town, one dungeon location, one place. Because a one-shot is one session. It's 3 to 4 or 5 or 6 hours, however long you're playing. But yeah, in that case, for a one-shot, I would instead create a very well-developed town, or a very well-developed village with a couple of adventure locations nearby. And really focus in on those. You know, you don't need to have a crazy world. Your world can be a couple of bullet points. Something interesting for each race, something unique for a general storyline. And that's it, really. I wouldn't go too far if you're planning on just a couple of one-shots here and there. Right, okay. Couple more donations with questions. Ger Theory. Hi Mark, I want to DM a Star Wars campaign, but I'm not familiar with any rule sets for this, and I haven't been DM before. Should I start with something easier? Ho, friend. If you love Star Wars, you need... So, depending on what type of Star Wars you like, there is a system, a very good series of systems out there from Fantasy Flight Games. If you like your Star Wars, which is about scoundrels and smugglers and bounty hunters, then you want to check out the Edge of the Empire system. It's very good. Very unique system with custom dice, very cool rules, feels very Star Wars. Zoe has been playing that. That's what I played when I did the Hat Film Star Wars stream. We also had a brief game of it off camera just as a personal game here in Bristol. It was very fun. Starter set is very good for that. Again, gives you everything you need to play. Just search for Fantasy Fight Games Edge of the Empire. If you like your Star Wars, which is about the plucky rebellion, fighting off the Imperials, secret missions, and that sort of thing, Fantasy Flight Games is exactly the same system, but with different classes, different races, different themes. It's called Age of Rebellion, and again, by Fantasy Flight Games. Same system, but just with different themes. And then if you like the Jedi and the Sith, they have one for that as well, called Force and Destiny, I think it's called. I'm having a brain fart, but I think it's Force and Destiny. And it's the same thing, Fantasy Flight Games, and it's all focused on the Jedi and Sith with fourth powers. It's got the fourth powers in it. It's got force powers in it, and everything else. So you can check those out. Perfect for new players. The starter sets for all of them are really good. I've run 2 of the 3 starter boxes, and they were both great. Really easy, very simple to learn. Lots of improv. It's very heavily focused on coming up with stuff on the fly and being quite improvisational, but very, very good. So check that out, Girthy. Moffy, hey Mark, I absolutely loved your DMing and truly inspired me to start DMing myself. I bought the 5e books, read up on stuff, and now I'm creating a campaign for quite a few adventurers who wish to try D&D for themselves. Awesome, not even a question, just a donation. Awesome to hear, hopefully enjoy it, have lots of fun. That's the out of everything, guys, just remember D&D is about having fun. Fun for yourself, but also fun for the players. This is why I always say that the ultimate thing is try not to say no. Always say yes you can, but yes you can, and yes but, yes and yes but, never yes no, or no but, or no. Always try and say yes where you can. Bumblebee Tuna donated. Don't have questions, just donating because I love the high rollers, but picked someone else's question out of the chat. Cab the Great asked, oh, thanks Bumblebee Tuna, that's really nice of you. Mark, what was your inspiration for Super Saiyan Cam Buckland? Was it in his story or did you come up with it? No, it was something that I came up with that I suggested to Trot when we were making characters, and maybe you'll find the answer to that out when I publish my new DM's Guild material, hopefully very soon. It is. So, that is part of Cam's custom race. So again, this is a bit behind the scenes knowledge for you. It's been hinted at in universe that Cam is called a Lightborn. This is a custom race I made for this campaign, and it should hopefully be available for you guys very soon. I'm going to put it up as a pay what you want, so you can download it for free, but if you'd like to support me, specifically me, because it won't go to Yogs, it will just be me and Wizard of the Coast, then you can pay some money for that as well, and that will hopefully be out very soon. Sapencia donated with a very generous donation. Thank you very much. Gotta go sleep for work, Australia. I'll catch up on the VOD. Just had to drop in and say a massive thanks for all you do, Mark. You seem to do tons and always with a cheery smile. Keep it up, and I hope you get plenty of thanks from everyone for all that you do. Thank you very much. That's really appreciated. I don't think I do that much. Like, I always worry that I'm never doing enough, but it's nice to be appreciated, so thank you very much. K-Bear10 donated. These $5 American are towards the Find Mark Hume's fund. This guy is obviously an agent of evil from nefarious Team Rocket who is definitely keeping him hostage. Thank you very much, K-Bear. Very good. Maybe we'll see some more Mark and Mindy in the future one day. Right, great question, which ties into some D&D campaign tips. The last emoticon. When doing a character creation, how would you recommend doing it? Like, do you do it all together, whisper some things to the DM, or do it independently? I would always... the soundtrack's not stopped playing because I haven't thingied it. Oh, you know what that means, don't you, Steve? It's time for a bit of halfling camp. Right, how do I loop?
Now yo, you rascals, with the bellies full of pie, and listen to this tale of old where the heroes won't be high. Hey, the master of concealment, and disguise.
I'm trying to...
Heroes is when he's taking faster, husband, what's the lie?
This is very... I'm using a really awful program for playing my music, so I realised I just listen to YouTube all the time, so I didn't actually have a proper thing. Why can I not get loop? You're going to have to bear with me a minute, folks. You can listen to the wonderful Halfling Camp. There we go, there it is. That should be it on loop. I don't know if this is going to loop the song or the album. We'll find out, won't we? If you get Halfling Camp again, it means that I've accidentally looped the song. Okay. I love this song. I'm so glad that, like, it's really cool. So, that was the other thing, actually. So, Halfling Camp, I really love it. I know some people are probably sick of it. But do check out if you go to the High Rollers Reddit, there is a Kickstarter for the guy who composed it, the original composer, to do more Halfling songs, more Halfling bar songs, camp songs. Do check that out. I'm definitely gonna definitely add some money to it once I can, and have it everything else. I'm not having a break. I'm just like, my throat is kind of going, so I'm just trying to have a bit of a rest and have a bit of a drink. I should have got some water, but I don't actually have any water in this house, like nice water. Bristol water tastes horrible, by the way. It just tastes gross. Don't worry, loads more. We've got the official High Rollers soundtrack on after this, as long as it doesn't loop indefinitely. I will play it again, and we'll go on to that. I just have this at the top of the playlist, so I'm playing it again. We will have plenty more of Steve's awesome music. Fear not. So, right, let's get back to... I apologise for this not being the most clear cut. I was hoping to have it a bit more planned out when I was doing it, but never mind. So, I'm going to crack open the old DMG again. Because... Okay, that's a pretty good point to talk about, actually. Yeah, oh no, I've just seen somebody saying that the North of England water is far worse. No, I agree. Right, is this going to repeat? Let's find out first before we go on. No, okay, good. Right, it's repeating the album. We're good. Yay! There we go. Right. So, one of the things that I've just noticed as well, one thing to talk about is when planning D&D campaign, is one of the things you need to think about is the tiers of play. This is something which you're going to start seeing more in the Lightfall campaign now. In fact, we kind of already have. So, D&D is split into levels 1 to 20, right? Level 1 to 4 is generally advised as being... The PCs are what we call local heroes. They make a difference to a single village or a single small town. They fight, they might fight off raiders or, a small incursion, but it's very much about local problems. Ugh. How is Nilesy in here? Nilesy, you're at Insomnia. How are you in chat? Get back to signing. You're supposed to be doing signings. Or have you finished now? Scottish water is alcoholic. Tiers of play is what happens when you go for TPKs, right? Yeah, absolutely, that's right. But no, so level 1 to 4, which is what the party are currently, is they are what the DMG considers local heroes. Levels 5 to 10 is something that the DMG says is they are heroes of the realm, which I think works as well. And you're going to start seeing this. This is where suddenly the actions of the PCs are the player characters and the opponents they're fighting. It's not about just one town anymore. It's about a region. It's about a small kingdom. It's about a valley or whatever. And their threats are things that threaten not just, one or two individuals. They are threats that threaten something much more established. And that's where we've started getting to now. It's that what you're currently seeing in the Lightfall campaign is, the PCs have uncovered this broken sky. They know a little bit about them, but they don't really know what their end goal is. They're still dealing with them on very much a localized level. A couple of missing people, or they've hurt somebody that they know. But their plans and their machinations are a bit bigger than that, but they just don't quite know how they're going to play out. Even right now, the party have stumbled into this safe house, this small group of broken cell agents, a cell, if you will. And they're going to have to deal with that, but that's still just one thing. That might deal with a small... Excuse me. that might deal with a small group of Broken Sky, but it's not dealing with them on a wider level per se. So that's something to keep in mind. Is you've got to stagger this stuff, and then when they get to level 10 to about level 15, that's when they become worldly heroes. Suddenly, the threat isn't just about one kingdom. The threat is actually about the whole continent or the whole world, and you start getting into very serious levels of play. I think we've only seen. So for those of you who watch Critical Role, you'll know I'm a big fan. But those guys have had the thing where their stream started very much when they were heroes of the realm. They were already these great heroes that, served the city of Iman, and, they were doing these things which protected, kings and everything else. They were dealing with these bigger threats. But now they're, I think, level 12, and they're dealing with the Chroma Conclave, these crazy group of super badass dragons who are threatening an entire continent, in fact threatening the whole world. And so you build up to these points, and that's where you get the world building stuff. And then if you want to, you can go level 15 to level 20, or I think it might be, is it 17 to 20, my apologies, where it's not just about the world, it's about the planes. They are fighting against the most powerful enemies that don't just threaten one world, but threaten all of them. It's very, very Marvel cinematic. You kind of go from, Loki's trying to take over Earth, Ultron wants to take over they got it slightly wrong, let's figure it out. Ultron wants to take over the world, Loki wants to take over the solar system or the galaxy, Thanos wants to take over everything, that sort of thing. So you got to kind of see about it in that way. And yeah, my hope, my plan is that High Rollers will absolutely get to that stage. I don't think I'll go into the planar stuff. I don't think I'll go that high, but certainly there are plans above for probably up until about level 16, 17 I've got in my head, where they will have to face pretty big threats. And yeah, they need to think about that. Question from Draskalda. Loving the Q&A so far. Quick question. One of my new players has rolled a sorcerer with wild magic, and he's already quite random. When do you recommend asking for a roll of wild surge? Every spell or on crits and such? So, for those of you who don't know, the wild sorcerer is a sorcerer who has something called wild magic, where the official rules are that whenever they cast a spell of first level or higher, they have to roll a d20, and on the roll of a 1, a wild surge happens. I know some people think that that's fine. Some people don't think that that's fine. I am one of the people where I think that a roll of a 1 is too... It's not enough, especially because, people... You could play a wild sorcerer and never roll a 1 in your life, in theory. It's not that impossible to happen. I prefer, and some people do find this quite harsh, but I think if you're going to play a wild sorcerer, you want the wild magic to go off. So for the player, it's pretty good. So I have it on a roll of an odd. So every time they cast a spell of first level or higher, they roll a d20. On an odd number, they get a wild surge. On an even number, they don't get a wild surge. It's a 50-50, it's a coin flip. The reason I do that is because there are many beneficial benefits on the wild surge table, as there are not so beneficial results. There are lots of silly results. There are some which do damage to allies. There are some which can make life very complicated for allies. But there are many which screw with bad guys as well. And I think if you're playing a wild mage, it's going to happen eventually anyway. There might be some balance issues with that. Maybe, I don't know. That's just what I prefer. I actually played with a DM who... the way he did it, and maybe this is another way of doing it, is anytime I cast a spell of first level or higher, I had to roll the d20, and if I got the 1 and it went on that, and I rolled 1s all the damn time. So it will happen. I think here's the point on this, Draskalda, right? If you're going to have this player as a regular player in your game, stick with the official ruling, okay? So every time they cast a spell of first level or higher, they have to roll a d20, and if it's a 1, they get a wild surge, right? The reason I don't do it, and the reason I didn't do it for Kaf, is because Kaf is a guest character. He's only going to be in it a few times, he's not a regular party member, so you want something funny to happen, and having that odd even roll makes it much more likely. So I would say go with Every time they cast a spell of first level or higher, roll a d20. On the roll of a 1, it goes off. And also, what I would recommend, and I think this is more fun, is don't let them roll to see what happens. You roll to see what happens and describe it. Don't let them, like, you just, do things like a raw thing of like, okay, pick 3 creatures you can see. Because the player shouldn't, the character shouldn't know what's about to happen. So you just say, yeah, pick four creatures that you can see. And they'll have to pick, and they won't know if it's good or bad. Likewise, say, pick a spot within 20 feet. If you really want to be mean, you could pick it for them or let the dice pick it for them. But I would just say, without telling them what it is, just say, like, make a saving throw or pick somebody or pick a point that you can see within 20 feet. Okay, this happens. There are some pretty bad results on there. Dropping a fireball, like I think it's like a 4th level fireball on you. It's pretty bad. But we'll see. We will see. So, just rolling through and trying to see. Yeah, I mean, Scumstar's got a point. You could do it. You could say, like, roll a d20, and if it's under 5, if you feel that the roll a d20 and on a 1 isn't enough, you could say roll a d20 and under 5. That makes it 1 in 4. You got to play around with the probability. You could say on a 1 or a 2, or on a 1, 2, or a 3. You can change it to what you want to. Trelemar, no. Instant immortality is never going to happen, I'm afraid. Just seen one from Negligent Money. Mark, I'm making a game and currently am having them travel to a city far away and making the game feel a bit like Lord of the Rings. I have no idea what should happen in the city. Did that happen with you in Talis Val? No, it didn't happen with me in Talis Val. I always had a vague idea about what I wanted the guys to do. I knew that the Broken Sky were going to be enemies. I knew that they had operations in Talis Val, and that the PCs would uncover them as they went. Obviously, they didn't uncover them completely because there was meant to be a lot more in Briarcrest, but never mind. I would say it is quite difficult. The Lord of the Rings thing works in movies and in books because you are not seeing the whole slog. I would say don't go into too much detail about travel time. Don't track how many miles. Well, I don't know, right? Okay, so this is just my opinion, right? You could do it one of 2 ways. You can go the way which is don't track how much distance they can cover per day, know that certain roads will be safe and they won't have encounters and then instead plan interesting locations along their journey, so certain towns or a certain adventuring site or certain events that happen that maybe shift them off the beaten path. The other way you could do it, and maybe some groups would have fun with this, is make them track stuff, make it more like a survival game. Okay, you, along with their character sheet, maybe give them an additional piece of paper which is right, food you can carry on you, and you limit how much they can carry until they get magic items. So it's you have a backpack, you can carry you can draw boxes for the amount of items they can carry, how much water they have on them, how much food, and they have to mark it off, and as they go they have to restock supplies, they have to go and get water, they have to do this stuff. You can track, okay, how much distance are you going to cover, and you can try and work out and say, okay, from town A to town B I'm going to say it's 30 miles, and they have to get the 30 miles, and in the player's handbook it has got all that information of characters, you go by the slowest character in the group, and this is how far they can travel in a day, and you can do it that way, and maybe that's fun. Some people might find that fun, especially if you put a lot of interesting things as they go. You can have a lot of if they spend the night out on the plains, roll to see what weather it is. If it's raining, they don't have tents, they get soaking wet, maybe they get pneumonia, maybe they have exhaustion for the next day, maybe that means they move slower, and maybe when they get attacked by the goblin raiders who are out on the plains, it's going to make the combat more hard. Likewise, if they go and try and camp in the woods, how well do they prepare their surroundings? Do they have a guard? Maybe an animal attacks them in the night. Maybe there's evil ghosts. You can have all of these interesting things that happen to them, and you can just have it as notes in your thing of if they do X, then Y. If they do A, then B. You can roll and see what happens. You can create wild encounter tables. So traveling along a road, roll a d20 on a roll of a 16 or higher. The group encounter a group of bandits who have been plaguing the area. You can do things like that to make it interesting. I just saw somebody say stream lag. Is that true? Is it kind of going nuts? Nuduri says, Mark, based on travel time, Dawn Empire doesn't feel much bigger than UK. Is it by design or because you're British? Honestly, it's because I didn't think about it that much. I just drew that map and had an idea, and I didn't really think about it. Okay, cool. I hadn't really thought about it. And in terms of this is me being lazy, but I don't want to care about that stuff. I don't want to sit there and go, well, let me see, it would be approximately 7 days travel. I'm just going to say what I think. I'm going to guesstimate stuff like that. You know, I guesstimate that they've spent 5 days traveling. I guesstimate that they've spent, you know, X amount of hours to go from A to B. It's rough, but I don't think my players care that much. If I felt that they were the types that would get annoyed by that, I wouldn't. But I think they're more interested in their stories and their character stories and, you know, events that are taking place. They don't want to sit there and worry about how far it is from A to B and X to Y, etc. Rollers Damn writes, have you ever played Dark Souls? Thoughts on making a campaign based around it? Sounds really cool. I've only played a little bit of the first Dark Souls. I must admit, I have not played it through fear that I would be awful at it, because I'm terrible at video games. But I have seen quite a lot of stuff on the homebrew D&D front. A lot of people converting monsters from Dark Souls. So if you're a big fan of Dark Souls, definitely check out the D&D homebrew community. You can find them on Unearthed Arcana on Reddit or on Tumblr as well if you just search for homebrew D&D. Lots of really cool monsters. There was a really cool one I saw called like the Mirror Knight, and it just looked really badass. It's a bit too high level for the Lightfall guys, but definitely an interesting looking monster. Warrior Marth, how long did it to build your campaign? That's a really good question. And it kind of relates to the stuff we've been talking about. The original idea I had for the Lightfall campaign was I had maybe 6 months before I joined Yogscast. So I had that campaign sitting in a Google Doc as just a random idea. And at that stage, it was really just the idea about the comet, the idea about the fall shards, and that was pretty much it. In terms of after that, once I actually, we decided we were going to do high rollers, and I was like, okay, I need to flesh this thing out more. I maybe spent initially, until the first stream, maybe a week or so. And that was just every night I would write a little bit more, add a bit more detail, and everything else. And then we sat down, we made characters, and then we started. And then, pretty much, I just add to it each week since then. So however long we've been doing high rollers, I just add a little bit more information. I add a bit more detail to Talis Val. I add a bit more detail to Resaris. I add a bit more detail to this. Sometimes I'll get particularly inspired, and I'll go, I'm going to create a dungeon location. And I'm going to, I will write out, a short section or a short paragraph of bullet notes, just describing a new dungeon that I've come up with that I want to run at some point in the future. But again, I try not to plan it out too much. Oh, sorry, yes, I was talking about character creation earlier, wasn't I? I got completely distracted. Create characters together. Can't stress this enough. If people want to have secrets, that's fine. What I would say is at the beginning, you kind of say, okay, guys, we're going to make characters together. Feel free. You should always encourage them to, work together as well. If you've got two players who want to be brother and sister, that would be really cool. Or if you want to, oh, my character knows your, could my character know your character from blah blah blah? Yes, that sounds really cool. What if we had this? Blah blah. It will develop more stories. What I would say is just say to everybody, if you've got something that you want to keep secret about your character, just leave it blank for now and then talk to me later. Or we can go and have a quick chat with them, pull them into a different room or pull them aside and have a chat with them there. Having secrets is always fun. Try not to... What I would say is you don't want to have something so big that it's going to disrupt the party. Having somebody turn around and go, if you've got a character who's saying, I hate Dragonborn killed my parents, I'm going to murder this Dragonborn hero, and then, the guy's just like, I want to be the Dragonborn that killed her, but I'm somehow keeping it a secret, that I would encourage not to happen. But if it's, if they really want to do it, let them do it. But it's very difficult. You want to make sure that everybody's having fun in the group. That's the main thing. You want to make sure that everybody can have fun. And some things are just a bit too disruptive. People don't want to feel like something's been taken away from their character. Okay, so Shigemi Notoge, do you have any tips when you want your character's secret to be slowly revealed based on other characters' perception? Is there a way to reveal something to only one character? It's going to really depend on the circumstances. The thing with D&D is it's a group game. Remember that in theory the player should only be, their characters should only have information their characters have. So if your character takes one individual character aside and says, hey, listen, I want you to know I'm actually a demon lord in disguise, that's fine, and only that character should know that. In terms of slowly revealing secrets, foreshadowing's always good. I mean, you saw it with the Lightfall stuff. Things like Cam going into the Golthian tree, and that's where they first saw his glowing hair. He got dropped down, and then the glowing hair comes out again. That was a great way of them knowing that something was off about Cam Buckland, but not knowing what. And then, as they go on later, they go, what was with the glowing hair? We're going to ask this person about it. Oh, I've heard that there are these people known as Lightborn who have glowing hair, but I'm afraid I don't know much more about it. You'll need to ask somebody else. And as they go along, maybe you hear about other things, or something else comes across. Slowly drip feeding that information is always nice, and everything else. Melifuosity, D20 Babes did their character creation via Game of Fiasco, which seems like such a great idea to create character relationships and relations. I don't know what the Game of Fiasco is, but it sounds fun. Anything to make it more fun and engaging is always good. Where did the idea for Granomir come from? He could have easily been missed by Trell. Did you plan for him to be discovered specifically by Trellamar? Again, here's the tip. Here's some DM tips. Granomir was going to appear no matter what. It was basically a case of, because I kind of did it retconning because I did forget at the time, but I was basically like, oh, Trellamar, you find this black speckled egg. He takes it, and even if he hadn't taken it, Granomir would have hatched and appeared before him in some other way. That's the nice thing as a DM, you can just flub stuff, things like that. Granomir is actually part of his Warlock Pact, it's actually a part of his class that he gets. Normally he summons it himself, but I kind of wanted it to feel like it was a gift, or it was bequeathed to him, and it would help him later on in his adventuring. And so it was definitely something where it was, no matter what would have happened, Trellamar would have found something, or Granomir would have found him. I mean, even as simple as, manifesting out of a shadow, when the start of an adventure once he levels up, that would have been fine. So it wasn't, I can't claim any, that wasn't my idea, and that wasn't really, I mean, Matt wanted to have a pet, and he wanted it to be a pseudo-dragon, but he didn't have any ideas about where it came from. It was just a cool way to introduce it, really. And giving him the egg early on before he leveled up, and then having it hatch, worked out really well, and that was kind of the idea. Is I gave him that egg because I knew he would be taking that feature once he did level up. And there you go. Oh man, lots of talking today. Lettuce369, Mark, what do you think about Dragon PC characters? I have the basics down, but wanted to see if you had any pointers on how to keep one interesting yet balanced. My advice, because Dragon PCs is very dangerous, right? Because up until they get to a certain level, and even once they reach a certain level, because what you got to remember is a dragon, let's say you take a young blue dragon or something, right? In fact, let me get the old monster manual out here. Okay. So, if you want them to be an actual dragon, as in they are a real dragon, let's take a young black dragon, right? A young black dragon is a challenge 7 creature. That means it's the equivalent of 4 7th level characters. you can see why this can sometimes be a bit of a problem, because at that level, you know, even if once the party get to level 7, your character can't become a full dragon because he's still the equivalent of 4 dragons. Maybe when he's much higher level, that would work out, and you'd have to work out some of the maths behind that. So maybe, you know, they can become a full dragon later on. What I would recommend is it is a dragon, but due to a curse or some powerful magic, they are locked in a humanoid form. And maybe they develop their dragon-like abilities as they become more powerful and begin to break free. So you can have it so that they play a dragon. I would use an existing race as a good basis. So take an existing race and theme it more dragon-like. Dragonborn obviously being a good exception, maybe just making them more visually human-like. And then as they level up, you can give them additional abilities. Look at races like the Tiefling on the Drow. Both of them get additional magical abilities as they level up. Excuse me. Take something like that and work with that. So as they level up, they gain more abilities. Maybe they can grow wings, you know. But again, it's very tricky to balance that, because you've got to keep in mind that racial abilities are there all the time, and they're also gaining class abilities. You don't want to overbalance it. So yeah, Dragon PCs can be pretty tricky. I would definitely have it so that they've been cursed, or there's some powerful magic that locks them in their form, and until they reach a certain point, which you as the DM will have to decide, they can't revert back to their true form. And it's tricky. It's going to be tricky, unfortunately. Pam goes TNT donated again. This is what I donate for. Puns? Damn it, Mark. No wonder Nina feels ill and overworked. Fine, just fine. Kidding. Maybe give her my best, and please take care of your throat. My throat will be fine. It's used to a lot more than this. I just... Obviously, when I'm doing Lightfall, when I'm doing High Rollers, there are moments when I get to rest my voice because the players are talking. Whereas this is just like me going blah, 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 blah. So... I'm going to answer something from Werewolf1, which is, please can there be a channel specifically for D&D? This is something I'm looking at. I spoke to Lewis on Friday, who was very keen on the idea of me making a High Rollers channel. I don't think it will be a High Rollers channel. What I would like to do is make a RPG/tabletop channel, which would be curated and run by me. I will make some extra content like Q&As, like DM tips, creating a campaign from scratch, that sort of thing. It needs a lot of planning. I don't want to just go in and sort of do it and do a couple of videos and then it never gets updated again. I'd want to make sure it had a regular update schedule, it had regular content going on it. It's actually... when I mentioned earlier about running a second YouTube-only game, that would be where it would live. Maybe with different people, maybe with some of the same people. It depends on who's free and who's available. And yeah, so that's definitely something I'm looking at currently. The difficulty is I do a lot of odd jobs around Young Towers. So alongside being community manager and doing all the social media stuff, there is a lot of random odd jobs that I do, including looking after the office, you know, I recently rebuilt all of the new communal room that we've got, helping, you know, on loads of stuff. You know, it's one of those jobs where every day is very different, and I can't always predict my availability. So it is quite tricky, but it's something I'm going to talk to Terps about, and we're going to try and see, because I think it would be really fun. It'd be really cool. I'd love to do it. I'm very passionate about it. So yeah, so that's definitely something that we're currently looking into. I'm obviously also doing Couch Potatoes with Martin as well. That's quite luckily. We generally record those on Sundays, like before High Roller stream. So normally we normally record for about 2-3 hours just before I have to stream, and that works out quite nicely because it's very chilled out and easy going, which is nice. A lot of people asking me about lots of different types of PCs. What do I think about werewolf PCs? What do I think about beast PCs? Or what do I think about changeling PCs? My general opinion is always the same, right? It's fine as long as it's balanced and as long as the DM's cool with it, you know? If a player comes to me and says, I want to be a werewolf, I'll be like, sure. And then I figure out the best way to do that. Maybe the best way of doing that isn't making it a race. Maybe it's doing something like Order of the Lycan from DM's Guild by Matthew Mercer. Maybe it's a custom race. Maybe it's just a case of going, well, you know what? I'm just going to take the half-orc race, change it around a little bit. Oh, suddenly you're a werewolf now. and just go from it that way. My biggest problem with monster races as PCs is they're not designed to be balanced. You can't just take the stats in the monster manual and go, there you go, be that now. Because they're going to be way too powerful. And they're going to be way too powerful up to a point, and then after that point, they're going to be way too weak. And how do you level them up? It's quite tricky. There's a lot of maths in the DMG for adding class levels to monsters and all that kind of stuff. So instead, what I always say is take an existing PC race and reskin it, rearrange the abilities or take abilities from one, get rid of others, etc. Always put the DM. Things like the subreddit Unearthed Arcana are really good. I've been getting loads of feedback off those guys. Loads of different ones on there that you can check out. Really, really cool. There's a lot of custom stuff out there which seems fairly balanced already, so I'd recommend using those first. Have I ever played Shadowrun or Warhammer 40k RP? I played one game of the Imperial Guard D&D. I can't remember the name of it now. It was a lot of fun. We played it very much like the movie Aliens, where we were this ragtag, a bunch of cocky-mouthed marine scumbags, Imperial Guard scum, who were kind of the last chances. I was the sergeant, and I got 3 of my men killed. It was great fun. I'd like to play more of it, but sadly, just no time and nobody to play with. So somebody is asking me a very specific question. Crazy Ginger Guy. Mark, I've created a D&D quest. At the moment, it's about blights. But when they have fought through the forest, what should I put guarding the tree? Their players are 4 level 5 players. Well, I don't want to answer with specifics because, sure, I could say Shambling Mound would be a good encounter, but I don't know your party. I don't know your players. Instead, look at their composition, okay? Are they, are they very high damage output? Do they breeze through combat? Is combat quite a big challenge for them? Do they try and prefer to talk their way through things? Do they prefer to try and trick people, or do they have sneaky tactics? Base it around that. You don't always need one big monster. Sometimes it's quite fun to just have, maybe the area around the tree, they've got to rescue somebody, but the area around the tree is all difficult terrain, and actually it's a labyrinth of, razor wire or razor thorn walls, and the party gets, that changes and grows, and the party gets split off, and they have to fight things individually. Maybe having each PC have to fight one Vine Blight would be just as challenging as a group of 5 PCs trying to fight one Shambling Mound. Maybe also even not necessarily having every PC have to fight something. Maybe the fighter, who is, easy, finds chopping stuff up really easy, but actually navigating a maze would be pretty tricky. Maybe that's, something you've got to look at. So I don't want to make any specific things. All I would say is look at your group, look at what makes sense and what would be interesting. One thing I'm trying to do much more in Lightfall, because up until this point I've not been doing it, is making combat much more interesting. Adding elevation, adding interesting features, adding environmental effects. Think about your favorite MMO bosses or your favorite video game bosses. Often the things that make them so memorable isn't that they do lots of damage with an attack, it's that they have a cool ability where the ground is all fire and you've got to try and dodge it. I worked on WildStar as a community manager. I love the combat and I love the dungeon in that game because the bosses were so uniquely designed. The idea of a boss that sends out waves of fire that form a maze and you've got to run and sprint between them was amazing. Things like that. Let that sort of stuff inspire you. Be inspired. Don't just settle for a cool monster that's the right challenge rating. Even if it's an easy encounter, think of ways that you can make it more interesting. So Wilrus asked a question. I know I'm slipping back into just answering loads of questions, guys. It's just a lot easier because I'm trying to think of stuff to tell you because I've not planned well enough. Wilrus asked, Mark, do you think as a DM it's okay to play a character as well along with the players? I do think it's okay. However, be very careful because it's very easy for the party to look to your character to tell them what to do, because you're the DM and you know what they need to do, and your character might have the same knowledge, and it's just very tricky. I've done it a few times. What I prefer to do is have a temporary, don't play a full character, play a guard that hangs out with the PCs for an adventure, but maybe he's dumb and he doesn't know what to do and he takes orders from a PC. Let them let them lead the onus. Kind of, the guard is like, what do you want me to do? And they'll tell him, they'll be like, oh, can you guard that door or protect that person? He's like, right. Let them give you what you should be doing. And when you play a full PC, it's much harder for them to do that. If you play an underling, it's much easier to do that. So yeah, you can do it. I think it's fine. Just be careful. Zero inertia. Mark, do you personally prefer to DM a campaign or play? Always play. I miss playing. I really love being a player. I'm really glad that at the moment Smithy is running a very, very silly 5th edition campaign. We are playing very ridiculous characters and doing that. So that's what I recommend. I just saw another question. Captain Muffin. Mark, looking at the character stats, it's clear that you rolled for them, especially Alora's, as they are very high. Do you recommend rolling for stats or using a standard spread? Well, I really prefer rolling. Standard spread is fine, but it means that everybody's going to have very similar things, even if they put them in different locations. I can understand for balance reasons and like making it interesting using the standard set, but I think rolling's more fun because then you get people that have got an intelligence of 6, or intelligence of 7, like my character in Smithy's campaign. But I do have 2 18s, however I am thick as 2 planks. Things like that do make it very fun and they make a more interesting game, I think. In some ways, I kind of miss the day where you had to, I'm rolling my strength stat. I've got a strength of 12. Guess I'm not playing a fighter like I planned. Oh, but I do have a wisdom of 18. Maybe I'll give a cleric a go, because it means that you're forced to play something new. But I think that that's a very old school way of doing RPGs, and I prefer to roll the 6 and then allocate them as need be. It does create a little bit of min-maxing, but if you've got new players, that's less of a problem. If you've got older players, maybe force them to do it. Nilesy asked me a question. Mark, have you ever played Star Trek D&D? Is it awesome? I am a massive Trek nerd. And then he's got Craigasm. Do you know what, Nazi? I haven't played Star Trek D&D. I quite like Star Trek. I'm a big fan. Me and my mum used to watch Voyager and DS9 all the time together. I love Star Trek. I've never seen a Trek D&D or a Trek tabletop. But I'm sure you could very easily use systems like Savage World or Fate, particularly. Fate would be really good, I think, with something like sci-fi. And you could use that. That'd be really interesting. Maybe worth checking out. Get you to run a game, Nazi. Right, and then I've got a couple of donation questions. I want to make sure I read out because I feel bad when people give me money and I don't answer their question. Scarix X, just a little donation for a brilliant stream channel. There'll definitely be more to follow in the future. Keep up the great work. Thank you very much. Copy de Pasty, Mark, no real question. Just want to say I love your DM style. I'm glad that High Rollers is so popular and people are loving it. Can't wait to see what happens next. Thank you very much. Drascalda donation. Have you seen the special rule in the DM rulebook for all players on the DM taking turns? I think that would be amazingly fun for a YouTube channel I'm planning. Also, if you need volunteers for helping with the channel, I'd love to help. That's very kind of you. Thank you, Drascalda. I need to figure it all out a bit better yet. But yeah, that would be really cool. I've seen the rule. It would certainly be very interesting. The difficulty is that obviously it requires the right group. Everybody needs to feel comfortable and confident in DMing. You don't want to force people into it who just don't feel that they can. Because that is quite stressful. But yeah, in the right group, I can see it being a lot of fun to do, where everyone kind of switches around and everything else. Yeah, it'd be definitely very interesting. What is your favourite race to DM with players and why? I love High Rollers. Thank you very much, Munchoos. What is my favourite race? I love playing dwarves. I play a lot of dwarves. I just have always liked them. I think the other one outside of that is tieflings. I quite like tieflings. I like the just visually appearance of them. Very fun. Are we going to see Smithy's games? No, it's a private game that we just play for fun. Also, it's awful. Like, Harry does some awful things. Nobody should see the things that Harry does. So, Crazy Ginger Guy, me again, I've heard about some half-elemental characters called Ganassi, I think they are properly pronounced. Yes, if you look online, you can find them in the Elemental Evil Player's Guidebook, which is one of the modules, which I forgot about earlier. But the Player's Guide is free to download, and you get some really cool stuff. Would you have a PC as a Lord of a Kingdom from Logi? Yes, absolutely. Don't see why not. There's a background in the Player's Handbook called Noble. In terms of being but what I would say is that there is a reason they have to be an adventurer. You don't want them just, I'm a lord, I can go and get loads of money all the time because I'm a lord. Maybe they got kicked out. Maybe they've been framed. Maybe they're an exiled prince. Maybe their kingdom is destitute and he has to go out or she has to go out and make money for their kingdom. It certainly gives a cool location for your PCs to visit. It gives you a cool location to put in your world. But yeah, you just need to make sure that there's the right checks in there and to make sure that they keep adventuring and to make sure that they've got a reason to join the party and everything else as well. So definitely play around with that. It's very cool. Excuse me. Mark, one of my characters is a war veteran and has lost a leg, so he has a wooden peg basically. What would you recommend for his speed movement? You know, Emirate Joey, I don't think I would. I don't think I'd penalise them. I think that that's a cool story, and I guess it mechanically you know, if you want to get down to it, like, oh yeah, well they can't move as fast, it makes sense. Sure, but this is D&D. What's to say that because that they've trained to, you know, they've trained with this peg leg or this wooden leg that they've got in place, and they managed to keep up with everybody else. You know, they've strengthened their muscles. They've developed a way to move that doesn't slow them down. Movement only really comes down to it in combat, and you can justify that with a lot of stuff. You could certainly give him some weaknesses as that, and kind of, but I would use them in a more of an RP sense. Certainly there's, you know, some of the stigma that goes with it. Maybe, you know, opponents think that they're weak, or, you know, people try and offer them aid all the time. You could also make it that, you know, things like, you know, maybe you could, if you really wanted to do it, depending on the situation, like being knocked prone, obviously it's a bit, you know, it's a bit tougher for them to get up. Maybe it costs them their full movement rather than half. But again, I don't like the idea of punishing somebody because they've got a cool character. It should always be about RP stuff, nothing mechanical. That's my opinion, though. Shigemi Notoge again, Mark. There is a theory that Cam is an ASMR. Can you shed some light on this idea? All I can say is soon. You will know soon. You will know very soon. He is not an ASMR, actually. I will say that he is 100% not an ASMR, but that is not to say that he does not have ASMR-like abilities. Reading through the questions. I think I've answered most of these. Oh wow, that's a cool question. Ron Papara. I've met two other rollers in person, people who just recognized the game from a few moments before I had to mute it at work. Are you surprised how big this has become so fast? You know, that's a really good question, and yes, I was speaking to a friend of mine on Facebook. I mainly only use Facebook for LARP stuff and close friends, and a friend of mine just happened to tag me and said, oh, listening to, you know, Mark on High Rollers, and on the D&D podcast, sorry, and some guy replied saying, wait, you know Mark Humes? I watch High Rollers every week. And I was like, okay, this is weird now. Because this was a close friend of mine that I've known for years and years, and somebody he knows saying, you know Mark Humes? And like, just that phrasing really struck a chord with me. Yeah, it has blown me away. Like, I'm amazed. I'm super happy. I'm really proud. I think that it's great. I think that it's shown that there is a huge market for D&D, that people love D&D, and that I think what it's done, and we talked about this on the podcast, is, you know, it's shown a lot of people that D&D it doesn't just have to be a bunch of, you know, nasally nerds in a basement. I cast magic missile at the darkness. You know, it doesn't have to be that. It can be fun, and it's funny and silly, and you can have beers, and it's social, and it's cool. You know, and I love that. I love that the streams, like High Rollers and Critical Role and D20 Babes and Encounter, you know, all these things just show that it can be a lot of fun. And I think one of the benefits we've had My nose is really bad. I'm really sorry, guys. Like, I've got a really horrible dry nose. I think one of the things that we've had as a benefit is we're playing there in person. It's not like done through Roll20. It's not like webcam windows and a chat system and stuff like that. You know, it is actually us in a room together playing. And I think D20 Babes and I think Critical Role especially Critical Role is great because it's here are professional actors all playing D&D together, and they're amazing people. They're super lovely as well. So I think that's definitely helped us become a bit bigger. Obviously the Yogscast branding has helped, having Trot and Kim there to bring in their audiences, but so many people have just started watching High Rollers without knowing that as well, which is remarkable for me. I love it. Yeah, definitely. And I'm glad that it's inspired more people to get into D&D as well. Oh, wow, this is a crazy one. Ender Shadow 8. Mark, any tips for making gods a physical encounter in a campaign? Whoa. Yeah, so... that's a big question, and that's a big encounter. Obviously, depending on the level of the PCs, it's very unlikely that they can fight them on an equal level. So, if I was going to do something like that, then I would be asking myself questions like, why are they fighting this god? Have they angered them? Is it a test? Is it a trial? The god can, the god should know that it's powerful enough to destroy them. So even if they've pissed it off or, they've done something to anger this god, it shouldn't be them trying to kill the party. It should be he's trying to teach them a lesson, or they are trying to teach them a lesson. I keep saying he, I default to the male pronoun. It should be they. Gods and goddesses, doesn't matter. They should be trying to teach them a lesson, and maybe that doesn't have to be just dealing damage. That can be, maybe he's there to depower magic items. Maybe it's a case of, the PCs have to run away. Maybe it's that, they are there to stall them or something like that. It's very tricky. I think that encounter really has to be about the why is this happening. It shouldn't be a straight up combat encounter, because you can't balance that in the way that's going to convey the god's power, and you can't do that fairly for the PCs either. Certainly have things like the idea of the god sending a herald or a champion to fight the PCs. That works fine, and they can still have some otherworldly powers bestowed upon them. But it should be, a mortal champion is sent to kill them or something. If that's the way you want to go with it. I do not play on role-playing Minecraft servers just because I rarely get time to play any games at the minute. I've played a little bit of Rust, and I've played a bit of Hearthstone if you're fussy like Kieran. But no, I don't get to play a lot of games, and I don't think I would have the time to do something like a Minecraft RP server, sadly. I'm just having a look. Alright, I'm going to scroll down. Alright. Naduri, Mark, what do you think of non-traditional RP gameplay elements like Pathfinder's Kingmaker, where players end up carving their own kingdom? I don't even think that's non-traditional. I think DMs have been doing that story in their games for years and years, since the original D&D came out. I think that is, a really cool system. And again, what a way to frame a campaign. Like, if we want to talk about, again, going back to our point about, what's the theme of the campaign. I should pop this in this thing. What's the theme? What has happened to make your world or game unique? That's a great one to have. Players, having them all as setting up a kingdom. Maybe one player in charge, or as setting up as a council. I mean, that would be perfect for something like Lightfall. If I'd set the campaign, 20, 30, 40 years previous to what it is currently, maybe that's the way I would do it, is, rather than Korak and his group of allies, his adventuring party that established the Dawn Republic, I would have the PCs do it. Like, they're established heroes, maybe make them a slightly higher level, and say, right, you guys have established yourselves as characters, you've become these heroes, you've now got these camps, these huge camps of people, what are you going to do? Like, I want you to build this kingdom. I think that's a really cool concept for it. Somebody's saying, Mark, why bother creating your own fantasy setting when Tamriel is already totally awesome? Tamriel's okay. It's not my favorite. But no, it's a good point. Like, you don't have to make your own. You absolutely don't have to make your own settings if you don't want to. If you want to run a Skyrim D&D campaign, do it. If you want to run one set in a novel world, do it. You know, if it's just for you, if you're not trying to publish this stuff, then just play what's fun. I've toyed around with the idea of Mistborn RPGs and games and things like that, which I think would be amazing. But yeah, you don't have to build this stuff. One of my favorite campaign settings that I'm very tempted to run in is called Eberron. It's an official Wizards one from a couple of editions ago. But yeah, it's fantastic. Loads of fun. Characters about, like, there's a question about specific characters and stuff. I'll answer this one, Jacob, but I generally don't want to do this because ultimately characters should be up to you and your DM. Do you know if a fighter hill dwarf with low strength and high wisdom and intelligence would work as a kind of drawable and scribe? Yeah, absolutely. Why not? Why not? I don't see why there would be any issue with that. That's the main thing that you should talk about. Right. I think I've run. Yep. There's a donation from DVD01, CD01. Thank you very much, bud. Always giving those in. Also, Blaine Kerrigan donated as well. Thank you very much. No message. Just wanted to say thank you. I think I've got some more in that I need to read out. There was one from Candid Arachnid, which I didn't see. I'll be starting a new campaign soon and want to involve the players as much as I can in world building to make sure their characters fit into the world. Any tips on how I should do this? Yes! So that's a really cool thing you can do. Create the bare bones. Create your player sheet. Because like I said earlier, once you have a basic world, let the players fill some of it in. Once you create like a basic sheet about basic information, cool thing you can do is create a basic questionnaire. You can do it on Google Form, or you can print one out with like boxes for them to physically write stuff. I recommend doing that and do it as a group. And you just put boxes in it like, make up the town that you're from, tell me 3 things that are unique about it, and 1 secret that nobody else but you knows about it. Right? That's one question. You do that for like, maybe you have them create a place, you can have them create a dungeon, you can have them create a organization. So you can say like, you know, create an organization that is up to something in the world, that has an agenda in the world. On the other side, what you do is you then get each player to pass it to the player on their left. They flip it over, and on the other side there are boxes which is read player A's previous player's answer about their location, come up with a secret that they don't know about it, you know, and you can get them so they're actually kind of filling in for each other's stuff as well. So then you've got a location, you've got 3 facts about it that are interesting, 3 unique things. Then you have a secret that you know the player knows, and you have a secret that the player doesn't know. And that can create some fantastic game, and I really recommend that. I love doing that. Works for homebrew campaigns, and is very, very fun and very cool. Lots of fun can be had as well. I'm just trying to catch up with where I'm from. Cow Shake, I think this is the only one that's come in. Thanks for running High Rollers. I only just discovered it in the past couple of weeks, and I've only made it up to episode 5, but it's been helping me through the stress and despair of writing my dissertation. Keep up enjoying the streams. Good luck with the dissertation, Cow Shake, and I'm glad you're enjoying it. Hoi! Mark, can 2 different D&D groups get together and fight each other? That's a great question, and I think that is something that can absolutely happen and would be a lot of fun as well. The way I would do that, so I've always had the idea of 2 D&D parties, 2 groups of adventurers in the same world, but maybe pushed along different paths with different agendas. 2 different DMs, but the DMs keep each other updated on what the other one's doing. And then once the parties, because eventually you kind of angle them and you sculpt the story around them, so eventually these 2 parties come to clash, Civil War Avengers style. And then both DMs will say, okay, well, we'll play the next game. And the way I would do this is whenever I was talking about the other group, I wouldn't say that they were players. I would pretend, like, I would make it look like they were NPCs. So I would like play them and be like, yeah, you've heard about this adventuring party and blah blah blah, and like your group would go like, oh, it's probably some NPC adventuring party we're gonna have to fight later on. And eventually it comes to the big clash where they're gonna fight, or that they're gonna meet. And the two DMs are like, okay, well, we're gonna play a, you know, we need to play at a different place this week. I've hired out a hall because it's gonna kind of be like a really big thing. I thought we'd have hire out like a little room in a pub and we can get drinks and play properly. And the players will be like, oh yeah, that'd be great. And they rock up, and then there's another D&D group there, and they're like, who are these guys? And the two DMs meet, and they like sit down, and like, right, everyone should take a seat. And like everyone would then be looking at each other, and they'd be like, "Oh shit!" And then the two DMs are like, "Right, let's begin." So, and then you have the DMs each kind of taking it in turn to run the encounters and then run the adventure. And maybe the third party comes in, maybe some NPCs come in, and that would be fantastic. That would be really funny. I think that would be a lot of fun. And it would absolutely take about 12 hours to run. You're right, Strange DOS. It would take forever. But I guarantee it would be a really cool memory for both of those groups. It would be, that'd be really funny. Oh, Plague saying something. Oh, okay. Plague's just giving a warning. Remember, there is a 200 character limit. Hey, the grass is green, the air is clean. A couple more donations. So Vanguard Badger, no question, just a little donation because I love high rollers, and a huge part of that is your DMing, Mark. Inspired me to buy the handbook, and hopefully we'll start playing D&D with some friends soon. Thank you very much. Really hope you get to play it and enjoy it. And everything else. Solomon's going to remove the character limit, I think, but don't go nuts, folks. Ron Papara, very proud of what you guys accomplished. Thank you so much for bringing D&D to so many new players. You guys have created such a welcoming community. Everything is great, and I might cry a little while. Thank you very much, Ron Papara. That sounds amazing, and yes, I agree. We have a lovely community with the high rollers. What is the perfect amount of alcohol for a DM to consume when running a game? There is no perfect amount. God, I wish I drank more on stream. Oh, man. It is... yeah, sometimes I think it would help me just loosen up a little bit, but no. Unless you are very adept at drinking, I do not recommend it to keep it under control. So Zero Inertia was saying that the idea of having the two groups, maybe have one that's played at home and private, and then have one on stream, and then the two meet up for the Christmas live stream. Could be pretty cool. It's a good idea. We'll look into it and see. Any tips for creating or adapting gods for the campaign? I plan to run a game focused on those aspects. Yes, I initially was going to have a custom pantheon of gods for the Lightfall campaign. So it wasn't going to use the D&D gods like Avandra or Melora or any of those characters. I was originally going to create a bunch of gods. I didn't in the end because I think that there's a lot of complexity to it, and when you have new players, it's easier that you can just point them to a D&D god and say, yeah, Avandra, you can look her up online, and you know there's wiki articles and everything else, and it's in the book, and you can show them. And do that. Creating them, what I would say is think of pantheons, right? So you want to have... So there are different ways that you can do it. And in fact, again, this is all in the DMG. The DMG has a pretty exhaustive section, which is just about creating a pantheon of gods, or a group of gods. And it basically says that you can have it, so you can have like a type pantheon of gods, which is all focused on a single religion and teaching. You can have you can have cults, you can have, loads of stuff. You can even you don't even have to have gods. You can have like spirits and things like that. You can have monotheism, which is just the one god. Generally, the way that pantheons, when I was looking into it, each god should be dedicated to something, or normally multiple things as well. So you can have a god of war and light, and then you think about, well, why are they the god of that? What do they represent? What are their tenets? Try and have a tenant for each god and goddess. Normally about three sentences that represent each one. So I know for one of Avandra's is fortune favors the bold. Don't be afraid to do something. Luck is with people that try. That's what that means. But the tenant is fortune favors the bold. And try and have like each god have at least 3 tenants. come up with themes and what they represent, and also how they interlink. Like things like the reason that I think the Norse gods and the Greek gods work really well is because of the familial ties. You know, you have Odin, who is the All-Father, you have Thor, who is his son and is the favoured son, and you have Loki, who is the unfavoured son and is the god of trickery, and that's why those two are always opposed, but it still also gives reason why Loki is, you know, respectful for Odin and will, you know, bow to him and things like that. And you can play around with it and stuff like that, but it is pretty tricky. It is tricky. The rules of acquisition, exactly, Nazi. The Ferengi would be quite good. Vampiric Panda, critical role versus high rollers at a convention. Oh man. First, we would be destroyed, because they are significantly higher. Vox Machina are a significantly high level. There is also a lot more of them than us. There's, 7 of them with Ashley as well? So, yeah, considerably more. They might need a help from somebody else at some point. Angles is asking me about Pokemon D&D. You are asking the wrong person, I'm afraid. I just don't have that much knowledge of the Pokemons and Pokemon worlds to really give you a decent idea for that. I'm currently trying to make a character for a campaign me and some internet friends will be playing. Could I get some help for an event in her backstory that will create a goal for her from Munchus? I mean, there's loads of things I can recommend, but then it will be me creating backstory stuff for you. Think about events in a life, something that can happen. You know, death is obviously one, loss is a classic trope that you can use, but you can also have things, you know, changes. Changes in lifestyles. They decide that they don't want to be a baker anymore, and maybe they get rescued, maybe they see a procession, maybe they hear a story about a famous hero that they want to emulate, maybe somebody attacked somebody and they you know, without thinking, they leapt in to defend somebody with no training, no experience, but they clearly realized that they were born to do something. They had this spark of heroism about them. You know, stories and videos and movies, they can provide you with endless amounts of inspiration for this stuff. But I think it has to be a personal thing. It has to be something that you look at, and you look at the character that you have so far and think, what would inspire them to have a goal? What would inspire them to do something? You know, did the loss of a parent mean that now they desperately crave power to make sure that they don't lose anybody else? Maybe the loss of a parent, maybe they realize that now they don't have any chains to them, you know, chains to the normal world, and now they want power for selfish reasons. You know, you can take these traditional tropes and change them ever so slightly, you know, tweaking them for your own gains. And I think that's, you know, it has to be something very personal in a sense, because it's something you've got to role play and represent. Should I let players create their own characters for the starter set? Also, how should I follow up after finishing the starter set? You can do. I mean, the starter set includes the pre-mades. It depends on how comfortable your players are. If they don't particularly like the pre-generated characters, if they don't think that they're very interesting, then create them. And if you've got a player's handbook, then, you know, it does take you through creating a character step by step. Just follow the rules. It's all written out very plainly for you. Just follow that through. If they don't mind the pre-gens and yeah, they seem quite happy with them, let them play them, because it does do a lot of the math for you. As for following up the start set when it finishes, excuse me, I'm super burpy today, and one Coke I've had. It's been really gassy. Finishing up the start set, so it finishes with Phandelver and you kind of resolving the situation there. And Phandelver's just a small village. It's a small town in the Forgotten Realms. You could pick up something like Out of the Abyss, or you could pick up the Horde of the Dragon Queen, skip a few chapters in, find the point where the characters are level 5 and go from there, maybe introduce them to that storyline as it goes, or you can take off on your own. The Forgotten Realms is a really developed world. There's a lot of cool locations and interesting places, but there's also loads of room for you to add your own stuff in as well. You can create little settlements here and there, you can create dungeons here and there. There's a lot of great resources for it online. Check out the Forgotten Realms wiki and stuff like that. There's big cities that you can base stuff in, things like Baldur's Gate, Neverwinter, Waterdeep. These are all fantastic big metropolises that anything can happen in. So go from there. And I would say, look at what your party's done as well. Maybe look at the actions that they've taken in Phandelver, in the Mines of Phandelver, and say, were there any unfinished questions? Did they let a bad guy go who can go and seek revenge? Did they upset, a government official who might have a thing out to get them? Do they need to be chased out of town because they've killed everybody? These sorts of things. Look at what they've done and then build on from that, because then it will give the characters a sense of that they matter, that their actions mean something. That's one thing I think a lot of people do, just to ramble a bit about D&D, is I think one of the reasons that the more sandboxy open games work is because players genuinely feel that they have a very big impact on the world. When they make the decision to set fire to a shop and burn a man alive, if you just brush it off, or if it doesn't mean anything, then they're just gonna do it again, and they're not gonna care when the super important NPC that you want them to care about dies, because they realize that it doesn't matter, that they couldn't have stopped them. Whereas if you make it so that all of their actions matter, that they mean something, that they have consequences, well, then they will worry that they might not be able to save Minister blah-de-blah, and that means that such and such is going to happen, because then they realize that it's down to them, and it's their actions, it's not pre-written, it's not a video game. That's the thing you've got to remember about D&D, is the one of the glorious things about it is it's not a video game. Like, they can save everyone, or they can save no one. They can do whatever the frick they want. They can go off the beaten path. They can completely just go anywhere. Yeah, consequences, man. Like, that's what it's all about. So yeah, see what they've done. See what they've done up until that point, and see if there's anything you can build on from that. Maybe you also, speak to the PCs. Do they have a personal goal? Maybe during the thing of playing it, a player decides that, maybe he didn't have much of a backstory, or they didn't have much of a backstory, and they go, you know what, my character hates Drow, and I want to go and I want to pursue, I want to go into the Underdark and kill a Drow that murdered my father. Cool, there you go, there's your next, 6 levels of campaign story that you're going to run. You go off that. Certainly in my group, I think even without the story stuff I've kind of planned, you can just, I've got enough there in what they want to do. They've given me enough that I could just run a campaign based on their own individual little stories. Certainly for Elora. Elora's story is one that is just so open, the spires, the elven spires, and reconnecting with all of them. That's kind of a campaign in all of it of itself. That can involve so much stuff. So, yeah. So there you go. Whew. Hey Mark, I'm new to DMing and I'm starting off with a pre-generated story while I work on my custom world. I think I know what I need to know, but what will I specifically have to do with a pre-generated story? So if you're using one of the pre-generated books, like the starter box for D&D, or things like Rise of the Dragon, Horde of the Dragon Queen, or Curse of Strahd, read through those resources a lot. Make sure you understand what goes where and who's who and what their plans are and everything else. Then I would just have, a stack of things just in case. Have a couple of cool places that they might go if they completely decide to go off the rails. Have a list of names if they speak to people you don't expect. Have those things to hand. But yeah, just generally prepare yourself. Read through the content, read through the pre-generated stuff a lot. Make sure you understand it. Make sure you understand who goes where and who does what. And then just run it and see how it goes. Bottle D Monkey. Mark, have you ever thought about bringing together guests to make a party when the main party can't play for 1 week? It's something I thought about, but the difference is that the problem is that the main group are committed, and this is their regular game of D&D. So if they can't play, it's only because we're away or there's something important that's happening. The guests, it's harder because whilst I'm sure that if I asked Martin and Kath, they would be up for it, I still need to find 2 other people, and there's no guarantee that they're going to be free because they don't have that commitment. They don't always have Sundays penciled off, so it is a lot harder to do. It's something I will try and look into, but yeah, I'd rather keep the guests as guests and do things like Q&As or recap streams and stuff like that, or even just, play games and stuff instead. I know people are hungry for more high rollers and they're hungry for more Iraq, but yeah, I think I want to keep the guests as guests, because that's kind of what makes them so special. They are characters that turn up, and the next time that Fault comes back, I know everyone's going to lose their shit, and it's going to be really exciting and funny when he comes in and saves the day. That's going to be really fun, and I don't want to lose that by having it become a regular thing. Maybe one day we'll see like a little kind of side quest adventure. But the problem is those, again, they have to be one and done. They have to be, I can't let that run on to the next week, because then that's going to ruin the main story. So it has to be something I can finish in 3 hours, which is tricky. So, blah, 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 blah. What should I do with an old school DM that likes to kill the PCs? I've talked to them and got to mod second ed with some 5e rulings, but I know we're going to die in a great blaze of glory after level 6. I don't know what to do. Dude, if you're playing with a DM who just wants to kill you, stop playing with that DM. Like, that's a DM who's completely missed the point of being a DM and is on a power trip. DMing's not about killing PCs. It's not a competition. And really sorry, but if you're a DM like that, screw yourself. If you're a DM, you're a storyteller. You're there to be the narrator. You're not there to be the master villain. You are there to facilitate the players' stories. You are there to create the world. You are there to show them the world and to describe and to be their guide in it. If you're trying to kill them, then you're being a douche and you should stop. So yeah, unfortunately that's the only advice I can give you, is just find somebody else to DM, or DM yourself and let your friends play with you and show them what a real game should be about. That's what I'm just saying. It annoys me. Sorry, I get really bitter about that, because I've known people like that and they're just douchebags. I've been very fortunate in pretty much every single DM I've ever played with has been great and has not been like that. But yeah, it's just, yeah, don't let them be a douche. That's a bad DM. What is the maximum size of a group you could comfortably DM a campaign for? So that's from Zero Inertia. My personal answer for that is I would never want to DM more than 6 at a time. I could probably do 7, but I wouldn't want to do it, because I like every player. I like how in our group of 4 or 5, everybody has a very vital role. Everybody has their own story, and I can give each person a little bit of spotlight every time. I feel like with big groups of more than 6 or 7, you can't do that. Somebody's going to have to be quiet and not do anything, because it's hard to get that into it. So yeah, so that's that. Blue Demon Scarlet. Mark, my players are very reserved, I'm guessing. My drow is scared of the dark, for example, and that is one of the minor things. It's usually great storyline, but it has a hard time for me to riff off my players sometimes. Any suggestions? No, not really, because like I don't think I've ever encountered that problem myself. Maybe find something that you can make them care about. So whether that's an NPC that they just particularly love, or they really enjoy being around, they think is really funny, put them in danger, like and spur them to action. Kind of make them think, if we don't save him, if we don't overcome these things, we're gonna let our friend die. And let them, remind them and say, like, just because you're afraid of the dark doesn't mean you only ever refuse to, you won't ever go in the dark. People can overcome fears. People can, have those moments. That's what being a hero is. It's about overcoming what you're afraid of to face it. And I think that's the kind of theme and the mentality you should try and get into them. Sorry guys, I'm just trying to read loads of stuff. If you let them, the players will end up creating a story that is new, interesting, and fun to experience even for you, the DM, despite your apparent role as narrator. Tabletop RPGs are cooperative storytelling games, and it's the cooperative part that matters. 100%. Preach! Praise be. Just tell a good story. I set a large lake infested with dire sharks, which the players had to cross. A few rooms down, there was a boat which they knew about. Players decided to swim. Should I feel bad for nearly killing them? If you told them this was a lake filled with dire sharks, and you you showed them that it was dangerous, and not just tell them. This is a big thing in any kind of fiction or any type of storytelling, is don't tell, show. If you showed them that it was dangerous and that it was really bad and they shouldn't swim and they still swam, no, you shouldn't feel bad. That was their decision. Just always be trying. That's one thing which I don't always get right. Sometimes I screw it up. In fact, we're going to put that in our general tips. I'm going to put that as rule number 1 as well, because this is the rule number 1 in writing as well. Show, don't tell. Don't just tell people that the kingdom of blah 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 is renowned for its, oh yes, that character, he's from this region, which means, that they are terrible slavers. Show that. Have a character appear. If you want to foreshadow an evil empire, have this evil empire send emissaries who tell people about stuff, or try and enslave them, or try and do stuff. Show, don't tell all the time. Like, try and use as much visual as you can. I don't always get that right. I sometimes mess that up, but you should always be thinking show, don't tell. Have you ever considered implement new large systems? Because I have an idea for Soul in my mind. I'm not quite sure what you mean by large systems. There, friend, Rome's Sicarius. You'll have to explain it to me. Wilrus, what is your take on custom spells in the campaign? Yeah, great. Just got to balance it. And that can be tricky. There's no advice I can give you apart from look at spells of similar level and say, can this do another spell's job but better? And if so, is it a higher level, or does it have a component cost in it? It's very tricky. You've got to look at all that stuff pretty much all the time. You've got to look and say, okay, well, this player wants to create a spell that lets them, teleport 60 feet and make an attack roll, and they want it to be a level 1 spell. Well, absolutely not. Why? Because the second level spell, Misty Step, only lets them teleport 30 feet and they can't attack. So instead, you now need to start looking and go, well, actually, it's an extra attack, so it's the same as haste, but they get a free move, but they don't have the AC bonus. Maybe it can be a 3rd level spell instead. So it's very tricky, but I think custom spells is great. Like, it's one of my favorite things from the Elder Scrolls series, is making up wacky spells. I played a magician once in an old 3rd edition game that made his own spells, and it was great. And it kind of became a thing where he became a famous wizard for having these certain spells. So I think that custom spells are great. It's just tricky. It's just hard to balance, and it's just something that you'll just have to try and get right. So Delbix playing a Kitsune, but I don't know what happened once I get my 9th 10, if it'll be over the power knot. I'm guessing that's the one from the homebrew D&D community. It's a pretty cool class, actually. It looks really fun. Fun race, rather. Neither do I. It's up to your DM, friend. Sounds good. Okay, I'm going to stop reading questions from chat. What I would like to do... I'm going to read one more. So, Harass Civil Servant donated. Thank you very much. Bam Goes TNT. I'm making a LARP where 3 groups think they will go to 3 different LARPs, and they both try to get control of the only place with electricity. Then I put the 3rd group in the place. Should be fun. Sounds great. I think I've read that one from Rompara. Blue the Procrastinator donated. Homeart, currently writing a world for me to DM after the summer, and the dwarven capital is called Lyravian Feyrier. I've made the common translation Stoneforge for players who might struggle. Do you think I shouldn't bother with complicated names? No, man, absolutely. Complicated names are great. Just have a common way to say it, And you can make that a joke, and you can make that a big part of the whole world, These names give it a sense of wonder and a sense of placement. We can all laugh at fancy, ridiculous names, but they do create this sense that they are alien and they are foreign. But why does it have that name? Why do people call it Stoneforge? Those are the questions you need to really answer yourself, and with your group as well, and think about those. But yeah, I think absolutely keep it. It makes sense. I don't, mainly because the way I figured it is that the Dawn Republic has mainly been a human republic, mainly. So a lot of the names, and I've taken a lot of I've taken naming conventions from very traditional British English naming things. We would call somewhere back in medieval England, they'd be like, oh, there's a windmill here, we'll call this Windville. That's the kind of thing they would do, is like, it's got a ford in it, or this is by the sea, Southend on Sea, because it's the southern end on sea. Yeah, that's the kind of thing they would do. So that's what I've tried to do with the Dawn Republic as well. And yeah, it's kind of a case of, that's why. But yeah, I think that having cool names is interesting, and it creates a sense of history and wonder. And that's, what such a big part of D&D is about, is creating this sense of wonder in it. So I'm not going to answer any more like general gaming DM questions, but I kind of feel like it's been quite fun to talk a bit more about Iraq and talk about some of the stuff. So if you guys have any questions specifically about the world of Iraq, or about some of the things that we've seen in the Lightfall campaign that you want to know a bit more about, or something like that, I'd like to answer those. Or even things like, stuff that that hasn't made it into the stream yet. I'd like to know those. And I'll just do those from chat. So, do you have any neat trivia about the NPCs we've encountered that isn't spoilers? So, I think I announced it in the thing. Finney, the tavern owner from Torfield, is originally from Talisval, and he did not always have a sterling reputation. He was not always an honest businessman, and it's possible the PCs might encounter people that knew him. The world of Iraq. It is not Iraq, it is Iraq. Iraq. A-R-R-A-K. Iraq. When did the Starfall occur? You mean the Lightfall occur? The Lightfall occurred 46 years before present day. So it was 46 years ago that the Lightfall occurred, which makes it 1346 ALF, which stands for After Lightfall. So it's 1,346 years since the creation, since the Lightfall began, but from 1,300 years onwards it starts. How did tiefling slavery start? Ooh. So I can tell you how it started, actually. So originally, the kingdom of Brasaras is the oldest kingdom in the world of Iraq. It has existed for millennia, long before the Lightfall, in fact. And long before the Lightfall, the Dragonborn warriors and their masters, the dragons, fought against a terrible demonic invasion from the 9 layers and from the abyss, the demonic planes, basically. During this, because of the dragons, they started to win. The Dragonborn started to push them back. So the Demon Lords reached out to the savage kind of human tribes that were existing at the time, and basically made them an offer. Join us and we will grant you amazing powers. We will give you riches and you will be super powerful and super badass, but you have to fight for us. They agreed, and they were given basically demonic forms, and that's where the first tieflings came from. Unfortunately for the tieflings and the demons, while they did start to win again, the Dragonborn, the metallic Dragonborn organized full armies, and basically they became in charge. They got put in charge, and they then started to win again. The end of that whole shenanigans was that the ancient dragons were basically put to sleep. They exhausted all of their power. Many of them came to rest, put into an eternal arcane sleep, and the demons were forced back into their planes, and the planar rift sealed. But the humans who'd made the bargains with them still remained, because they weren't from the planes. They couldn't be pushed back. And so the Dragonborn, fearing that these tieflings would try and release their demonic masters, and that they were very powerful in of themselves, enslaved them. And I don't want to go too much more into it from there, but that's the general how things started. What race is in control of the Unbroken Empire? Do they enslave any race like Brasaras does? What race is in control? There is no one race that is in control. The Unbroken Empire is kind of like an independent nation. They've founded themselves. They've claimed territory for themselves. There is somebody in charge, but they aren't in charge. It is very much a free empire, but there is an empress. It's very confusing. They don't enslave anybody, though. In fact, that's something that they are vehemently against. Are there firearms a thing in your world? They could be, if somebody wants them to be. If somebody wants to play a gunslinger or something, they certainly well could be. I would probably have firearms as a dwarven / drow thing. Nalzi, how would Dimitriev's story have concluded if he didn't RIP in fire? Lul. How would his story? Well, they would have taken him to Talis Val, and he would have probably told them a lot of information about the Broken Sky, collaborated certain stories, and yeah. Who knows? I mean, I think that the Broken Sky still would still try and kill him, but it would have been a lot harder. And yeah, there we go. It's kind of hard to say because I hadn't really thought that far ahead with Dimitriev. Are there any rough plans for other continents? No, not this time. Maybe if the PCs decide they want to sail over to them, yes. Do gem dragons exist in your world? No, but they could, maybe. I don't know. So far, it's just chromatic and metallic dragons. Do the Elven Spires appear in the same place after they have disappeared? No, they move around. The Feywild is very fickle like that. Was there anything more to the Elven Mace and the flashback? So that mace, which is now gone, sadly, it was a magical item. It was a +1 mace, and it had a couple of minor abilities. It had the ability for the wearer to be heard up to 300 feet away, because it was used by an ogre war chief to command his armies. And it killed so many elves that it kind of had lingering spirits and dark magic associated with it that caused anybody with elven blood, non-drow, who touched it to have nasty nightmares and flashbacks and things. What are all the races that exist in the universe you have made? So far, it's all of them in the player's handbook, plus a couple of extra ones. Are Warforged wandering around? No! I love Warforged. I couldn't realistically put them in here in a nice way. I might be able to fit them in. There is a way I could fit them in, but I think I'm going to save that. There is not a Warforged race, but that doesn't mean that they won't encounter any Warforged, if that makes sense. They could encounter some Warforged, but it's not like there is a village of Warforged or anything like that. They would be very rare. Did you make up the Lightfall? Yes, it's completely custom. I made it up. I had the random idea one day. Did you roll to decide when the Lightfall was, or did you pull random numbers out your backside? Yes, I pulled it completely out my bum. Didn't roll for it. So the reason I picked 46 years is I wanted to pick a length of period of time that would be reasonable for the beginnings of an empire. So, you know, I figured that if an entire nation put their efforts towards, or like, you know, Korak's massive following put all of their lives into rebuilding a city, then they could realistically accomplish that in, you know, building on ruins and building on stuff that was already there. They could probably accomplish that in about 40 years. So that's roughly why. And 6 years for that's how long Korak was wandering around after the Lightfall doing stuff. Are there any creatures in D&D that live forever? Yes, mainly undead. There might be a few other ones as well. I'm just going through and looking at these questions. Where do the dragon lives? Are they now awake? At least some of them. So, when the Lightfall exploded and crashed down onto Iraq, it did a number of things. Not only did it destroy places, but it also awoke monsters. Not just, you know, undead could now be summoned. Things like wyverns and, you know, lots of monstrous creatures, griffins, that sort of thing, were kind of awoken from slumbers. Dragons were part of that. Not all of the dragons are awake. The most ancient and most powerful still sleeping, but many of the younger dragons are awake. But so far, their concerns have been focused around Brasaras, so they have not ventured more into the Dawn Republic yet. Zosmi is saying, I'm still working on the Dawn Republic part of the map, and now it turns out you've got even more. Well, yes, but most of it is blank, so don't worry about it. Will Drist ever make a celebrity cameo? No. Drist, I'm not a huge fan of Drist. I've read the books, I'm not a huge fan of him. It's very unlikely he will be making a cameo, as much as Chris Perkins may love him. In Iraq, where do the Drow originate from? The Underdark. So Underdark is as it was. So beneath this entire continent is another kingdom called the Underdark, and the Drow originate from there, as well as several other races, etc. What made the Lightfall event occur? Ooh, that is way too big a spoiler I can give away on this Q&A stream, I'm afraid. Suffice to say, it was done by someone or something for a reason, but I'm not going to be telling you what that is. A few people asking about the same thing. Quick question, what class was Vixanis? She was indeed a rogue. She was a rogue indeed. Sadly, I did have some plans for her. She was going to meet up with the PCs in Briarcrest. So the whole Briarcrest thing was the PCs, if they had gone there, would have been there as things started to get very heated. So there was going to be this political undercurrent there for a long time, and the PCs get there just as it's kind of boiling to a high point. Vixanis would have found a lead on her missing dwarf, got the PCs to help her, and enduring that, they would have encountered sort of an early cell of the Broken Sky and something they were up to, and etc. would have happened. Did I borrow any content from existing RPG worlds? No, I don't think so. I probably was inspired, but I can't think of anything specifically. What is the name of the mountain range? I haven't thought of one yet. My generic one that I go for is the Grasping Peaks. The Grasping Peaks. That's the one I normally go for. How long did it take me? I don't know, week? Yeah, I think I said earlier, it was about a week I spent detailing it. With the wizards being divided into their own towers, is there a specific background info on future guests that want to play wizards? So the wizards aren't necessarily splintered into towers. The elves are in different towers. The wizards, so this city, First Light, was the magical capital of the world. Completely run by mages. It was a magocracy. So the most powerful mages led a council that would rule the city. When the Lightfall struck, one of the largest chunks of Fall Shard landed on the city, annihilating it Independence Day style. The few remaining wizards were scattered until Korak actually brought them all back together, and they created a new council where there is a single master for each school of magic who then trains a number of apprentices before sending the apprentices out on various secret missions. The wizards are dedicated to helping the people of the Dawn Republic. It is a very good organization dedicated to providing magical aid where they can and using their knowledge. So, Elven Spires. So, there is one, I've not drawn it on yet, but there is one, so the Autumn Spire event this autumn is here. Nope, that's not going to work, is it? That's because I've got my opacity turned way too low. So, there you go, there's one Spire. And that's the only one that you know about so far. So I'm going to remove that. Don't worry. I'm not going to leave that there. I don't know where that other one was. Oh well. Alright, we'll figure that out later. Could have Warforged as Dwarven constructs. Yeah, I could do it. It's a bit too... I've got a better idea. Well, not a better idea. I have another idea I want to explore with Warforged. Dwarf, it's very easy to make them a dwarf thing. Any tips on naming places and characters? Is Arak all there is of the world? There is more, I just haven't drawn it. In terms of naming stuff, yeah, Google fancy name generators. That's what I do. Little secret behind the curtain there. Is there a central crater? No, it was very much spread out and scattered, which is why things like First Light definitely was hit the hardest, but there are multiple shards all over the place. That's why a lot of the Dawn Republic is very valleys. There's a lot of impacts from the craters and stuff like that. What scale is the map? It's a continent, it's not an island, but it's just a small continent. Broken Sky. Granamir is not a fully fledged dragon, no. He is a pseudo-dragon, which is a kind of magical familiar dragon. He will not grow up, he will not get bigger. He will stay as he is for now. Would you ever have an adventure in another plane, not just like an encounter? Maybe. Depends on the party. Depends on the PCs. That's a good question from Anime Chen. Are Dragonborn seen as bad guys in the Dawn Republic because they enslave, or is it kind of a dodgy topic? It's definitely one of those dodgy topics. You guys, so in the stream, again, most people don't know much about Brasaris. They might have heard, like, rumours that there's slavery there. Certainly when tieflings come over, they say that there is slavery. So people kind of know about it, but it's also a bit of a taboo subject. People don't speak about it that much. When Dragonborn merchants come over, they don't discuss it. It's kind of kept as an unspoken topic. Generally, I would imagine most people, if they know about it, would obviously be against it. The Dawn Republic is quite good in terms of its morality against things like slavery. But again, most people would just think of it to be rumour. They wouldn't actually believe it. What mapping tool did I use? I made this in Photoshop with just a tablet, basically. What is it? So yeah, that's what my map is on. I'm just trying to read it. The Spine of Iraq sounds too much like the Spine of the World, which is from Forgotten Realms. There is more of this map. Is there even a school of necromancy? A good question. One I'm not going to answer because it might come up. What are the lands north of the Dawn Republic called? Can you say something? These are called the Troubled Lands. It's basically very rough terrain. There is not much civilization here. It's mainly frontier towns. Very rough. Kind of think of it as a cold Wild West. Is Varesh's sword also light shard based? It's not light shard based. That would be very rare. So far, Korak is the only one known to carry a full shard blade. It is a sword, and he has magical powers. I will say nothing more. Are there golems? Yes. But not like Guild Wars 2 golems, like robots. They're more like stone or clay golems, that sort of thing. Do you create new spells and classes? I want to create my own class, but I have not got round to it yet. I have not created any new spells. There's a lot of missing mothers in this game, isn't there? Whose theme is this? This one is... this is called Darkfire Drums. Darkfire Drums. I don't believe this is anybody's theme. It's just cool music that Steve made and is awesome. How much influence does the government have across the Dawn Republic? Are their forces mostly in the capital or something else? So, the way... I've talked about a bit about this in the recent streams. The Talis Val, which is the capital of the Dawn Republic. The Dawn Republic is founded on the premise of... I kind of wanted it to be very much about... there is no nobility, there's no ruling class. It's very much about merchants. Kind of think of America, kind of, it's very much run by, the common man who can make a business and make a fortune and that sort of thing. It's very it's mercantile based. So the guilds control most of the power, the 8 main guilds, and the reason they have that is because they are responsible for things like building homes and providing clothes and food and things that everybody needs to survive. And what they do is they regulate it to make sure that people are paid fairly, that everybody has what they need. So it's very kind of... it's very charitable and generous in that sense. And then they have 2 things. So they have a militia forces, which each town is responsible for creating its own militia, which is then led by the Martial Society, which is a group of lawmen who wander around and travel from place to place and make sure that the laws are being upheld. But they also have something called the Gilded Arms, which is a mercenary force which the guild pays for and hires and trains, and that represents the elite fighting forces of the armies. So if there was a full army attack on Talis Val, it would mainly be the City Watch and the Gilded Arms. Any plans on sharing the full map? No. I will share you a small segment, but because so much of it is blank, I don't really want to share it past this stream. What resources do you have while I'm playing? So I actually have just like a little notebook with just what I know that they're going to encounter that thing. I do have a secondary notebook if I need to refer to it, but generally I will just leave that on the floor or in my bag. Where is the moon spire? Haven't thought about it. Need to figure that out. Which is really bad. But yes. Are we going to see a Game of Thrones style political intrigue with Broken Sky having a princess and all? Can't say too much. Can't say. Too much of a spoiler. Stumbled on your stream, no context but cool map. Do you stream your campaigns? Oh, well, welcome Moonkin48. Yes, so this is just a Q&A stream. Normally, we play 5th edition D&D every Sunday, 5 PM till 8 PM UK time. We're called the High Rollers, and yeah, it's a full campaign. We've got 2 players away this week, which is why I am just doing a campaign. I'm just doing a Q&A this week. Tips on making a race. I'm struggling with making a race, even though I've placed based them on the androids from third-party Pathfinder games. I heavily used existing racial bonuses and just tried to ensure that it was fair and balanced. That's what I did. So yeah, if you're new here, welcome. I'm going to be finishing up very soon because my throat is going. Is it generally a bad idea to give players maps to the world? If you've got a fully decked out map with loads of cool stuff, no, I think they'd love it. I think they'd go nuts. Somebody just called Community with Twitch Turbo. Is that Twitch Community? I don't understand who this is. I'm quite a Twitch scrub. If you're asking who I am Sherlock Holmes, DM for the regular DM of High Rollers, which is a regular game here on Sundays. We currently have 2 players away, so I'm doing a Q&A, a D&D Q&A at the moment. Just answering some questions about our campaign setting and doing some D&D tips and that sort of thing. What kind of program did I use? This is Photoshop. I just used Photoshop to make this map. If you Google, if you go on YouTube and search for Fantasy World Map Tutorial, then you can find it. Oh, you're just a user. I thought it was like some crazy cool Twitch thing that you had. It was like Twitch community account or something. But welcome, yeah, no, so, yeah, this is, normally it's a D&D stream every Sunday. Where did that glowing full shard that Juto found near the beginning have people forgotten about it? It was 1 shard. Juto did not find a full shard. I don't know where that has come from. Maybe I've missed something and I accidentally described something that sounded like it, but no, Juto has not found a full shard. That would be very significant if she had. What is your take on custom Dragonborn breath weapons, e.g. wind or earth? Sounds cool. Sounds cool. Right. So, got the victory theme going. I'm going to quickly read out a couple more donations. Ace of Thorns, so much good advice, Mark. Keep up the great work. You guys make Sunday for a whole bunch of people. Thank you very much. Silenced Hands, hi. What are your thoughts on alignment as a real metaphysical property of fantasy worlds? I'm not a huge fan of alignments in the best of times. We kind of use them in High Rollers, but I kind of don't like them. I much prefer it where there is no alignment and you can have evil dragons and good dragons and everything else. You can have good vampires, you can have evil elves, evil nymphs, that sort of thing. I just find alignment is too restrictive. It's like, oh, but you're a good guy. As you can see, I'm much more about, in High Rollers, I'm much more about, yeah, you can do it, and that's fine, but it will have consequences. And like things like the only place where I think alignment has purpose is with gods and deities. Things like if you are a cleric of a good god, that god might be pissed at you when you do things that aren't very nice, as we've seen with Cam. There was a full shard embedded into the windmill, but there was no. But yeah, that was just embedded into the windmill. It radiated, and even if Juto did take a chunk of it, if you cut away from a natural full shard, anything cut off loses its power within minutes. So, are you interested in audience characters, and if so, would you be best to send them? I am interested, but purely because I like people telling me about D&D stuff. You can always email them at community@yogscast.com, but keep in mind, community characters aren't going to get put in the game. I'm not going to introduce, like, people aren't going to see their character as an NPC or anything. It's just because I'm interested in seeing them. Any succubi or incubi? Yeah, totally. They're demons. they're part of the demonic planes. So somebody summons them, or if they decide that they've got their own stuff, everything else. I mean, I know that alignment's a guideline. I just don't like the idea of quantifying it into a thing that somebody has to pick. People generally get quite confused with the whole chaotic and lawful and everything else. I'd rather just have you play a character that's your character. I just don't like having to write it down. So here's, I should probably say, by the way, guys, and it's no discredit to your ideas. I'm sure they're all fantastic ideas, and I'm sure they're really cool. I will not include stuff that you send me in the campaign for 2 reasons. 1, it's yours. It should be for you. It should be for your game. 2, as it is my game, this is for me to use my creativity and to put things I make into the world. And I just don't want to do the disservice of putting something in and, maybe forgetting to credit. Like, if they go to the city, do I have to mention the person who created it every time they go there? If I don't do that, I feel like a douche. I feel like I'm stealing the idea and I'm not properly crediting somebody for it. And if I do it, it's going to sound really clunky and a bit weird every time. So I don't take any suggestions. The only thing I will is things like magic items. If you want to send me a cool magic item, I make no promises that it will make it into the game, but I do like custom magic items or interesting magic items, and I can always say, there's an inscription that says it was crafted by, and then I can put a character name or a username or something in there. That's the only real exception, but at the same time, only if it sounds balanced. Like, I've had quite a few people that have sent me, like, there should be, like, a demon sword, and when Juto uses it, it, like, shoots fireballs, and it's, like, a +3, and it's like, yeah, nobody's ever having that. That's way too powerful. So there. Are Arakoka in the Thing and Lightfall campaign? They could be. So far, haven't planned them, but if somebody wants to play one, sure. Are there any classes particularly shunned? Classes, no, because I think a class is a very vague concept. I think, how would a commoner know the difference between a warlock and a sorcerer? They wouldn't really. They might have an understanding that their powers feel very different. They might look different, but they're not going to know. So instead I kind of have it like, the only things where it's like a specific organization might be involved. Like if somebody said like, oh, I get my powers from the demon lord Belial, a common person would probably be like, oh, he's a demon worshipper, kill him. But if a person was just like, oh, I have a friend who gave me these powers, he's a very powerful friend, that's very different. And so, I'd rather play it around like that way. So will we get any information on the seed and the vial from the start of the campaign? The vial is a magic item called something's boon that I can't remember because I've not got my notes in front of me. It's basically a minor magic item. It's a consumable magic item that will do something when they use it. The seed, I mean, I did mention, so Golthia, the dryad, was trying to feed the Golthias tree to create seeds so that she could bring more of her sisters into the world. And Juto currently carries one of them around with her. So that's all I'll say on that one. Okay. Have you ever thought about either playing or playing with a Kenku character? Yeah, I have. I always look at new characters to play. Seems fun. Don't know if I'll do it, but it seems fun. What do you think about the possibilities of VR with controllers and D&D Tabletop Simulator? Yeah, looks really awesome. I know Trot is mega hyped about that. He loves his VR stuff. I've not really got into the VR hype because I don't know. I can't play Oculus. I can't watch 3D movies because of glasses, and I have really messed up eyes. So I just I'm not excited about it. I already answered you, Blue Demon Scarlet. Yes, Arakoka could be a thing if somebody wants to play them. Would you have allowed Matt to go to the capital on his own when the rest went to the Elfspire? Yeah, I wouldn't have stopped him. It just would have probably been like, okay, Matt, you're not going to be in the game for the next 4 weeks. That's probably what I would have done. But I'm never going to stop a player doing anything. I'll never stop anybody. What are your thoughts on fourth wall breaking? It's fine. As long as it's not overly done. As long as it's like a little joke here and there, I don't mind it. What about making new races? And will you do that myself? I already have. Scribble Sketcher J. I already have. And you might be able to get the rules for that some point soon. Is the new D&D version 5 inspired by Pathfinder, or does it take Pathfinder ideas and make them better, or is it quite different? I haven't played much Pathfinder. From what I have seen of Pathfinder, Pathfinder is very much 3.5.5 D&D. 5th edition harkens back to 3rd edition, but changes quite a lot. And I would say it is much more focused on the role-playing elements now than it has been in previous 3rd and 4th editions, with the introduction of things like backgrounds, and it simplifies a lot. It's my favourite system. I much prefer it to anything else so far. Did you have a vision set up for Trell if he had failed his saving her against Danny Bones' magic in the Nightmare Realm? Yes, I did. Yes, it would have been to do with something that has happened in his past. So, yeah, Evil Lord. Let's say one of the players went back to the giant shard in the windmill. Would you let them chisel it down to make a sword blade, then make a sword? They could make a sword, but it would instantly, within minutes, within moments, it would lose its power, because any full shard separated from a natural chunk loses its power very quickly. That is what makes full shards that are small enough to use as items, amulets, weapons, etc. very, very, very valuable. So Korak's sword, I can't remember what I called it, I think it's Dawnbringer or something, is very expensive and very powerful. We know that Drow have been driven to the surface. What about the Durgar, Deep Gnomes, Illithid, and other races in the Underdark? Haha, that's a good question, Azomi. Maybe we'll find out one day. Don't want to talk about that one too much because it's too likely that it could come up. Do you still have the cipher? Not here, unfortunately. It's all at work. I have not got it at home here, which is where I'm streaming from, by the way, in case you hadn't worked it out. I'm actually in my flat today. What if they chipped it down for days until it was a sword-side chunk? They can try that. Yep, absolutely possible. Takes a long time. Full shard is very tough, but they could try. If a full shard split exactly in half, well, if it was split in half as part of it falling as part of the light shard, both halves would have the power. If somebody split it in half on purpose, it would be up to the fates to decide, which means I would roll a dice and then see. The hardest part for me in designing a campaign is having the gangs all here moment. How do you usually bring the party together, Mark? Good question. Very tricky to do. Last thing I'm probably going to answer today. The main thing is you need to give them a common goal, a common enemy, and generally a common ally will help as well. So in mine, I had each player character as part of character creation. I was like, come up with a reason you are going to the capital city of Talisfal. Each of you come up with a reason. That then gave them a temporary goal. That gave me time to develop other things which will help bind them together. The Broken Sky is a common enemy. They all have a reason, at least to an extent, to at least be interested in the Broken Sky. Juto, she was actually interested in joining them. The others, they had seen that the Broken Sky was up to something, and there was potential threats, and etc., and everything else. Common allies, people that they care about, because then when those people they care about are put in danger, it creates a reason that they need to get together and do something. Generally, it is pretty tricky. You need to look at those characters individually and figure out what their motivations are and what's gonna make them tick. If you've got the lawful good paladin who just wants to help people, and you've got the chaotic, neutral, selfish rogue who only cares about money, you need to find a way to combine both of those things and make them have a goal to work towards. But yeah, I would say generally, giving them common enemies, common allies, and common goals is the only way that you can really achieve that. Common allies tend to help as well. People do get attached to NPCs. There's pretty much everybody in the party loves Barris, and so that if he were to be put in danger, I think everybody would want to help him. Maybe not Trell, but we'll see. So there you go. Is the Broken Sky even an enemy at this point? It's kind of up to the players, but I certainly see people that are stealing stuff and kidnapping tieflings and kick them down pits and torture people. I'd see them as an enemy. I think a lot of people have got swept up into Juto's kind of history and are like, oh, well, they're trying to take down Korak, blah, 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 blah. And that's one way of seeing things, but, I think a lot of people have And I think even, Juto assumes that she's in the right. And I think now, and Kim's told me about this so far, is that after seeing what happened in the Broken Sky safe house with Varesh kicking the tiefling down the hole, she's now starting to question that, which is interesting. I'm not going to say either way whether they're good guys or bad guys, or, well, I'm not going to say if Korak is a good guy or a bad guy. The Broken Sky are certainly a dangerous organization. Do I mind if you use a similar idea to Lightfall? As long as you're not trying to publish it and make money, go ahead. Did the tiefling that was kicked into the pit die, or will there be a plot twist? Can't say, because maybe it did, maybe it didn't. Maybe I need to roll and find out what happened to him. Tieflings are evil, must kill all. That's one way of thinking about it, bro. Right, okay. I think it's a bit early, but I'm going to have to finish up there, guys, because I am desperately hungry for food. My voice and throat are getting very croaky. I'm going to answer a couple more questions. What happens if one of the characters, I'll say, try to hurt you, Kim, or Kim die? Well, Scribbles gets, yeah, that's already happened. Juto did die once, and the party went to resurrect them. They went through so for me, resurrection has to be part of a quest. There has to be something that they have to do, and in my world you get one resurrection and there are consequences to it. You can only be brought to life by resurrection magic once. After that you need something more powerful, like a wish spell, to do it. Right, and then the last one I'm going to ask would be, how effective would an Eldritch Blast be at chipping away the water? Almost useless, because False Shard dampens magic, and cantrips especially do not work. So that is why. What was in the room? This is a good question to answer. What was in the room guarded by the animated armor? That room was once a treasure vault for a noble from long, long ago, and inside there was a magic item and lots of treasure. And I won't tell you what magic item it was, because I don't want the party to try and go back there. And are the tieflings enslaved by Dragon Ball a standard D&D thing? Nope, it is completely homebrew. They don't specify stuff like that in the player's handbook. It's almost always up to the GM to see if they want to shift it. I like playing around with things like that with the races, because it makes it a bit more interesting and it gives people cool hooks. Right, that is it. Thank you very much, everybody. I'm sorry it's been a little bit mishmash, and it's mainly been me answering questions again. Hopefully showing you the map and a little bit of the tips and stuff has been useful. We will be back with everybody bar Katie next week, so we'll be back into a normal episode. So next week we will have Juto, we're going to have Kim, Trot, Matt and Kaf back, so we will have those 4 guys playing next week. Excuse me. I will keep you all posted on what's happening with the potential High Rollers channel. I will keep you guys posted with what's happening with the High Rollers soundtrack. And I will keep you guys posted with the High Rollers t-shirt. Make sure you follow at High Rollers DND on Twitter. Make sure, and if you'd like to follow me, I'm just at Sherlock_Humes. You can also check out our subreddit for High Rollers, which is r/High Rollers DND. Loads of cool discussion on that there. And that's it, really. I can't think of anything else I really need to talk about. Yeah, those of you in the UK, have a great bank holiday Monday. Those of you in the US, hopefully the week is good for you, or if you're in Australia or anywhere else that doesn't have a bank holiday, I hope it is not too bad. And yeah, I will see you guys next time. Thanks so much for supporting me and coming by. And yeah, catch you guys next time. Bye, everybody.